on, it was a internal battle. It's an internal competition of, I know I can be better than I was the previous time I tried. He was entrusting, and that's like the ultimate quality of a teacher that you can ever ask for.
Hello, my fellow Martians. My name is Harry Mars, and this is the On Mars Pod, where we take a deep dive into creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and other inspiring Martians alike.
If there's any person that can save Lantern, it's going to be you. And it's going to take a lot of effort, but I think you can do it. Like 30% of my life has been spent doing that. And the amount of gratitude and how thankful he was that I was there. He was like in tears.
Hello, my fellow Martians. Today on Mars, we are joined by one of my childhood friends here today. He is a creative photographer, videographer, and owner of Lantern Coffee out in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So today on the special edition of On Mars, we are actually in Lantern Coffee in Grand Rapids. So thank you so much, Jon, for letting us do this today. This is so sick.
For sure.
Yeah, so I'm on a little trip here visiting family for some birthdays, and I hit Jon up to see if he would be willing to come on Mars, and he said yes, and I was kind of like, what are we going to do? Had to make like impromptu setup, and yeah, so we're in his coffee shop right now. So this is Grand Rapids, Michigan. If you guys live in Grand Rapids, check him out here. But yeah, Jon, so on Mars, we dial in on creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and other inspiring Martians alike. That's kind of our whole thing here. So I'm so glad you were able to come on today because, you know, we've been hanging out since 2007, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
So I've seen your journey from the beginning, and you are by far one of the most creative and one of the most talented people I know. You go all in on everything you do. And that's everything, you know, creatively and in your life. So it's really cool that you're able to, you know, see things through, and that's what sets you apart from a lot of people. So thank you again for coming on and wanting to do this, man.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I've done a couple podcasts before, and I just love doing them. So when you hit me up, I was like, yeah, for sure.
Cool, man. Well, thanks again. And to get started, you know, I want to touch on, because we both grew up in Grandville, Michigan.
Yep.
So out here in Grandville, man, early on, you were in skateboarding, snowboarding, sports. You were, you were obviously into photo and video early on, but before the photo and video stuff, was it just sports? Was that the main passion? Was it like skateboarding, snowboarding? Was there anything else that really, like as a child, that was really taking up time?
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly sports. My grandpa was a basketball coach. Like I grew up playing football, baseball, basketball. Like my stepdad was my baseball coach. Mostly, you know, kind of from the sidelines, you know, like parents had a heavy involvement in like all sports, as well as like all my siblings played sports. So it was kind of just like a natural, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And you know, like you kind of know early on playing certain sports, like whether or not you're good.
Yeah.
For me, like, you know, seeing like some stats that like my sister was putting up versus like what I was putting up, I'm like, yeah, I'm not, like, I'm just doing this because my parents want me to. And it was more just like, I was tall, so I played basketball. Like that was it, you know, which led me soon after to get into skateboarding, because that's just a natural, you know, I met a couple friends that had skateboards and hung out with them and thought it was really cool. So I got a skateboard and started hanging out with them, and one thing leads to another. And the natural skateboard path is like, you know, let's avoid all organized sports because that's against the rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And, you know, you do your own thing. So that led into skateboarding, snowboarding, stuff like that. So
yeah, man. So I mean, that extreme sports route was because you found like, hey, the regular sports route is not for me. So let me try this that I feel this is more fun to me.
Right. Yeah. Like,
did it click initially for you, like the skateboarding thing, or was it just something that you just thought was fun?
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like with traditional sports, you're competing against other teams and other players.
Right.
Whereas like in skateboarding, snowboarding, even golf, or say, singles tennis kind of thing.
Yeah.
Bowling. Yeah. Like you're competing against yourself.
Right.
You are doing the sport alongside other people, but you're not competing against them. You're just there.
Yeah.
So for me, early on, it was a internal battle. It's an internal competition of, I know I can be better than I was the previous time I tried. So same thing, like a couple of years ago, I got into running, just long distance running. I know I can do better than I did last time. And that's what drove me back then to get into skateboarding, is each time I went out and skated when I was 8 years old up until still today when I go skate, I know that I can try to be better than I was the previous time, and just trying to focus on what can I do better, what mistakes was I making last time, and what do I have to pay attention to, stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's a healthy motivation versus like using other people as motivation. I think that's a lot healthier, internally being like, let me just be a better version of myself in this task.
Yep.
And it's crazy that like you were able to kind of take those same principles in a way, I guess, and apply them in your life outside of sports and like skateboarding and stuff like that too, where it's just like you were never competing against other people. You were always competing against yourself. I guess competing, quotes on that. Just like you just always wanted to be a better version of yourself. And this is something that we've talked about like off air a bunch, but like you always go all in on everything that you do. And it's I think that's part of that mentality of just like you like starting in something, liking it, and then just wanting to get better and better and better and better. And just at the time, that's what you're focused on. So that's why you just double down, triple down, quadruple down on everything that you do.
Yeah. I realized this a couple of years ago that, and I don't know if it's really like an ADHD thing, but a lot of people that have ADHD, I've never really been diagnosed, but a lot of people that have ADHD, they pick up a hobby or a topic or something that they're interested in, and they like learn everything there is to know about it. And that's kind of what has happened with me in a lot of the different things that I'm interested in. But I tend to choose the ones that I'm really good at and stick with them.
Yeah.
So coffee was kind of the first one that I dove in on probably about 10 years ago about 10 years ago, like this week. I piqued a little bit of an interest on it. I read a couple forums online about coffee that could taste fruity. And 10 years ago, that was, for most people, like not a thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, damn, like there can be like fruit tasting in coffee. So I found a couple of cafes. I was living in Detroit at the time, found a couple of cafes over there that I thought would have those coffees. And of course, like the stuff I was getting was just like lattes with like a shit ton of sugar in them or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But that, seeing like latte art for the first time, I was like, damn, like that's so sick, because that to me was like flair. The same way that skateboarding has like style.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is the same feel. Like each like barista has their own style, their own flair. So for me, I was just like, yeah, like this is so sick. I want to learn more about like this whole industry. And so that's the beginning of me taking like deep dives on things. And I mean, I've had many other deep dives.
For sure. I mean, I do kind of want to like touch on before the coffee though, and even before skateboarding, like you were making films, and you were, shooting photos and videos as a kid. You were 4 or 5, 6 years old shooting videos. We were just talking before this pod with your sisters, and your family. And like, that was like part of like your bonding. You guys would make videos, and like you would title them, and you would do sound effects, you said, behind the camera, and like running a full production team with the sisters and brothers. Like, that's really cool, man.
Yeah, it was basically Sony, Columbia, whatever. Like we were basically that.
Sony Pictures, baby.
In 2002. Yeah.
But it's funny, like how like those little things that as a kid you just see as fun end up playing into who you become as an adult. And it's just like, then you start looking back now and you start like, oh, we were doing, we were actually doing like sound production. We were, we had someone being like the director of photography, like we
Yep.
were doing story writing. We were doing like scene selection. Like we were doing all these things that are like part of the cinema process now.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's cool because you were able to translate that into what you actually did as a profession later on in life. Like, cause photo and video, that was a big part of your life.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did that for like 30% of my life has been spent doing that.
Just behind the camera.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
and it starts with that. You're 4 or 5 years old behind the camera or even in front of the camera acting in these things that you guys, these little shorts that you guys were producing. But I do kind of want to touch on like when you first started picking up a camera and kind of like those early days. Like, was it exposure to like disposable cameras, or was it like a digital video camera? Or like, I know you said your grandpa had like the VHS rather,
Yeah.
that whole shoulder cam.
Yeah. So I got introduced to like movies young. I mean, everybody
Right.
watches movies growing up, but each one of my siblings, we all had kind of like our one Disney movie we watched a lot. Like one of my siblings watched
No way.
already.
No way. Cool. All right. God damn it. All right. So we just had a little technical difficulty because the light turned off.
And it's nighttime and we're filming at night.
And we're filming at night, and our key light decided to take a break. It's okay, because we have alternatives, and we thought about this.
Yep.
Here we are. All right, cool. So we were talking about being a kid and shooting videos with your sisters, and being in that space of like kind of like realizing that, realizing now that you were actually like doing a full production.
Yeah. So early on, this was mostly at my grandparents' house. So we spent a lot of time there as kids when I was 4, 5, 6 years old. And each of us had kind of our one Disney movie that we really liked. My sisters watched a lot of princess movies. Mine was Nightmare Before Christmas, which is still one of my all-time favorite movies. But yeah, my grandpa had one of those old big VHS camcorders that recorded just straight onto a VHS, so we could record a video of us and then immediately take it out and pop it in the VCR and watch it. The camera even had like fade in black, fade in white, and fade out black and white as well. So
for cinematic purposes, of course.
Right. So we were basically running like a multi-million-dollar full production at my grandma's house.
With the palm quarter. All right.
Yeah. And so we would write out little storylines that were kind of just like off the cuff. We'd come up with these ideas and just shoot these little videos around my grandparents' house, which later led to, we would grab like her whiteboard markers off the fridge. She had like magnetic whiteboards that we would take off, and we would write like the titles of the movies, or like scene 1, like stuff like that. And those would, fade in black scene, and then like it would come off the screen. So, we were doing that stuff for fun at an early age, which, yeah, I guess later on, like I had kind of been doing that stuff a little bit.
Yeah, and it's funny, like at the time, obviously you guys didn't think too much about it. It's just like you were just doing it because it was fun. And it was like, it's it's like your parents probably saw it and were like, oh, they're just kids having fun being kids.
Yeah.
They didn't even think about like, oh wow, those guys are doing something.
Well, and like literally right now, as we're talking about it, years later, I'm remembering situations where at my dad's house growing up, we used to have this one album. It was called it was like Halloween music. I don't remember what was on it, but I remember, and I think every kid kind of did this at one point, but I remember selling tickets to our show. we did a show to this album we had. It was like a Halloween album that had like, Werewolves of London, Love Potion #9. We were just talking about
Monster Mash.
Monster Mash. It had a bunch of Halloween related songs on it that, we had a production, we had a play, we had a live show, we sold tickets.
Of course.
And what's funny is, and I've been like this ever since, I don't like to be like on camera performing. I don't like to perform. I don't like to dance. And so even then, I think I was the ticket salesman. So like even back then, I was all about that money, baby.
Yeah.
I was pushing those tickets. I was trying
Put
to
me in the box office, baby.
Exactly. I was just I was the numbers guy,
Right.
or behind the camera. So
yeah, and that's like it transitioned into you being behind the camera for the rest of like, because you were never really like the guy that was like in front, like you were never like super like actor-y, like you didn't want to be the main star, like you liked to be the production guy.
Yeah.
And that's that makes sense because that was the role you played as a kid.
Exactly. I actually remember, I will remember the moment probably for my entire life. I remember when the first skate video I ever made.
Yeah.
Because I had gotten into skateboarding early, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but I remember the first time I realized like, oh, we can make videos of this.
Yeah.
We were skating in my driveway. We had a piece of plywood that there was like a crack in my driveway that we could like put the plywood into so we could roll onto it smooth.
Yeah.
And we put the rail underneath it. And a good friend of ours, Evan, had kick flipped off of it, which at the time was
crazy.
Yeah. So I like ran inside and grabbed my mom's camcorder, which at the time, I mean, it looked like one of these. Like,
yeah.
This is what I grabbed.
A little digital point and shoot.
Yeah. Which it was probably 2004.
Okay.
And I remember shooting the first skate video I had ever shot on one of these. Like that was like legitimately, that is the start to like my entire career.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you talk about that because that is definitely something I want to, touch on, because skateboarding and videography that had like a direct, they grew in tandem with each other, because as you grew in skateboarding, you grew in your videography career because that's what you were filming. I remember back in the day, you mentioned Evan, you guys were skating at your house all the time. He lived right up the road, so he would be up at your house skating every day almost.
Yeah, right.
Driveway, garage sessions. I remember one time you guys made a video like Santa, like you guys dressed in like a Santa costume or something.
Christmas garage Taj.
Christmas garage. I'll put a clip right here.
Yep. Yep, it's still on YouTube, you can look it up.
So it's like those times, like that was like the beginning of you like realizing like, hey, I can film videos and then add music on them, I can edit them.
Yep.
And what were you using like early on? Like what was that setup like?
So it was, like a point and shoot little camera that my mom had. We had Windows Movie Maker was free.
Yep.
And I'll never forget this either. This is the funniest. I think about this all the time. So back in the day, card readers weren't a thing. You couldn't put a card in a card reader, and like they weren't built into your computer. So you had to plug in your camera.
Yeah.
And I spent 3 hours trying to figure out how to get footage from my camera to my computer, but I didn't know you had to turn the camera on. So like it was plugged in, but I didn't realize that the camera had to be on.
Right.
I mean, I was probably like 10.
Right.
But I vividly remember just being like really, really fucking pissed when I like,
because it took 3 hours. For you to
when I
realize.
realized like, oh, it has to have power.
Never forget.
Yeah, so that'll live with me forever. But I remember using Windows Movie Maker for the first time and making titles.
Yeah.
Because you could have them like move across the screen.
Yeah.
Which like at the time was super sick.
For sure. Animating transitions.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yep. So that led into just me progressing in video stuff as well as skateboarding. Which very quickly, that was probably 2006, 2007, which is when like video game recording started to become like really popular.
That's right. So then that was the next avenue, was just like, because you were always playing video games, but then like being able to play Call of Duty, Halo, all these guys that you were like already playing online, that's when like the montages are coming out. And then I remember you were filming, like recording, like screen recording basically these games and then editing montages with like dubstep. I remember that.
Yeah. So very quickly, like in the Call of Duty world, that was what really pushed me to become better on the film and editing side, because you would find these groups of guys online, or kid. I mean, we were all kids. We're 12 years old,
Yeah.
meeting strangers online. We were making Xbox clans,
Right.
groups of people that we would be friends on MySpace. We would be friends on Xbox. We would all change our names to have the same like
Clan
code.
tag. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the one I was a part of a bunch of them. But the one I strictly remember was S7. It was just the letter S7, and then like we each had our own word. So mine was King with a Q instead of a G.
Wow.
So I was S7 King, and I was our video editor. So every 2 or 3 days, I would have media files, which I don't know if, or Mediafire. I don't know if Mediafire exists
Oh
anymore.
yeah. I know what you're talking about though. Yeah.
So I would have Mediafire links sent to me via Skype.
They were like
they'd be
their
files.
gameplay.
Yeah, yep. So they would record it themselves. I would get sent them, and like once a month, we'd put out a S7 montage. Yeah, and I was the editor, and so I had never had clips in the videos. I was just the editor.
Wow.
But we would do like 6-man games where like I would play with the team, and usually like I wasn't very good.
That's why you weren't in the montage.
This is a trend through like everything. I was never the best skateboarder, so I was always the one filming and editing. I was never the best trick shotter, so I was always the one editing. And yeah, I remember they always called me the one spin chump in the Call of Duty world, because like my trick shots, I would just do a 360 and shoot
360 no scope.
So I was the one spin chump. Like that was it. So
I love it.
But that just progressed me to like get better at editing and learning up like music syncing and color correcting, and which later led to special effects. And it was just this snowball of like, I can get better than the last time I did this. I can get better than the last time I did this, and just furthermore pushing that craft.
Yeah, and that's kind of on that same vein of like just like being like your own competition, where it's just like your video, you're trying to one up your own last video, where it's just like every time you come up with a montage, you're like, what other thing can I do to make this better?
Yeah, and I mean, there was always people doing stuff better, which at the time I accredited a lot to just equipment. I mean, I was on like and again, I don't know why all these details just stick in my head, but I was on like a HP Inspiron like 2001 computer, and it was like 2008 at the time. So this computer's like, probably had like 500 megabytes of RAM.
Crazy.
Which now is just insane.
Nothing.
Like that would never happen.
Not even. Yeah.
Like your watch probably has more RAM than that. Just thinking back, like I was accrediting a lot of my faults to just like, well, I don't have 25 hours to put into this montage. It needs to be out now. I need to like throw on some Skrillex and call it a day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like early on though, when you were like realizing that like editing takes time, and it's like kind of getting in that bag of like, especially with a setup like you had, like you were making these edits on like a 500 megabyte RAM, like that probably took you like 30 hours to do a fucking 5-minute video.
Oh yeah, I mean, the early days, like torrenting the Creative Cloud. Shout out Adobe for not suing me, but yeah,
it was like CS3.
Yeah, I mean, I remember doing After Effects for the first time, and just I had like watched some tutorials on like 3D editing, and just pulling up After Effects and just being completely overwhelmed.
For sure,
because it's just like so not linear to the way that like timeline linear editing is, and just looking at it and being like totally freaked out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even now, it's like if you go into it thinking it's like a video editing software, it's just like you're like totally thrown off, because it's like it's not that. It's a compositing software, and it's funny because it's like back then there was not a lot of education, so it's like these. Like the kids that were getting into it, they were going into it blind. They didn't have tutorials. YouTube wasn't really huge in that world. It's like there were maybe a couple videos, but it's just like it wasn't accessible. Like the information wasn't as accessible. So you were kind of like bootstrapping it, figuring it out yourself. You know what I mean? So it's like when you open up these programs and like they don't tell you how to necessarily like use them step by step, it's just kind of like it is overwhelming. I remember that being a thing. It's like.
Yeah, I mean, it was more just I was just trying to see what I could create by myself.
Yeah.
So doing. I remember a lot originally. I don't know why we did this, but I would color correct in After Effects. Like I would like make a whole video and I would send it to After Effects just to color correct, because in the early days, I don't know if Premiere like had color correction, or a lot in the early days too. I was using a lot of Sony Vegas, and their color correction wasn't that great. So I would export a full video, send it into After Effects, color correct in After Effects, and then export it from there. Which one thing again snowballed from another, and Cinema 4D became a staple where I was making 3D images in there and like lighting those images in a 3D world, which like even now I don't think I could do that. Like I was doing stuff 15 years ago that I don't think I could do now, because I was just more dedicated back then.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Cinema 4D, that was probably like the early days of Cinema 4D. Like,
yeah, I want to say back then it was a free software.
Yeah.
Which it might still be, I don't know. But back then I don't think we had to illegally download that one. I think that shit was free.
That's so funny. It's like we come from a time where it's just like nothing was a subscription service. This is like, no, you got to pay like $6,000.
Yeah, dude. The original Adobe softwares. I mean, yeah, you were looking at like
hundreds,
$400 or $500
easy
for one piece of software.
Yeah, one license.
Yeah, nothing was
just Photoshop.
Nothing was bundled. And shout out Pirate Bay. Like you made my whole early adulthood, childhood, like
for sure. And I mean, I think there is something to be said about like shareware in that way, where it's just like it kind of started a lot of careers, where it's just like, although at the beginning we weren't making money off of this stuff, so it's like all this stuff was just like, it's not like we were doing it maliciously. It was like because we wanted to learn, we wanted to know how to use these softwares, and we were gatekeeped out of it because we didn't have money, because we were kids.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yes, we want to do this stuff. Yes, we know that we need this stuff to do this stuff, but we don't have the money to get this stuff. So it's like we have to find a way to do it. And to be honest, like had you not had the access to this software early on, you might not be where you are today, because you would not have been able to like strengthen those muscles, because you wouldn't have had the software to do so.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, like we weren't doing it maliciously. Like we just wanted to have fun.
Right.
Like we were literally just having fun.
Exactly.
We wanted to make videos. We wanted to have the tools. And it's like most things in our world. If you make it accessible, it will all get better. I mean, the amount of free software that exists nowadays is like insane compared to what existed 15 years ago.
Yeah.
There's
100%.
so many free softwares that have incredible tools, 3D, whatever, effects, color correction, tracking, motion, like all that stuff built in, completely free. Like that 15 years ago, that was not a thing.
Not at all. No, for sure. And it was almost like the gatekeeping by money, like I guess the paywalls were a lot higher than they are now. I mean, even now with like the subscription service, it makes it more accessible. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, instead of paying $600-700 one-time fee, although at the end of the day, that's a better deal if you're paying 5 years worth of a $50 subscription every month.
Right.
But $50 per month sometimes feels a little less of a blow than $600 all at once.
Yep.
So it's like, even now, because the software industry has realized that pirating is a thing and people like to not pay for shit, that's why subscriptions came into play, where they're just like, okay, let's make it accessible for you so you feel like it's manageable, but then also we don't lose money on pirating.
Yeah. Then you're paying $600 a year instead of $600 one time.
Exactly. And that's how they like justify it, where it's just like, you're still paying for it.
Yeah.
The only difference is now you don't own it.
Yeah.
And it's like, so really at the end of the day, after 1 year, you've already made your money back had you just paid for that $600 license.
I mean, there's a reason that I use Premiere Rush, which is the free Premiere.
Really?
That's all I use. Yeah.
Hey.
Shout out Premiere Rush.
Shout out Premiere Rush, dude.
On your PC or mobile.
Not Mac. No, I love Creative Cloud, but it's just like, it is funny, like back in the day though, how like so many people that are now making a living using these softwares on paid subscriptions.
Yep.
Like people that are using these softwares legitimately now started with illegitimate software.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, where else do you start?
Right. Unless you are in school that you paid for, or you're paid for your own like subscription.
Yep.
Well, not even subscription, for your own license back in the day.
Yeah.
Because it's just like the only reason why you were able to use, like the only reason why I used Creative Cloud back, well, it was called Creative Suite back in the day.
Creative Suite, yeah.
And that was CS3. It was Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop because I was in graphic design in 2009 in school in Grandville.
Right, yep.
So it's like if I would have not taken that class, I would not have access to that software because I didn't have access to I wasn't on those computers if I wasn't in that class.
And I remember because I remember when CS4 came out.
Yeah.
That was when they had
It was like 2011, I think.
Yep. That was when they first launched the what do they call it? Where you can select a area and like scrub it and it will fix it. What is the
Oh, the content aware.
That was when they first launched content aware fill.
Right.
And I remember that just being like, this is crazy.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And it was like almost like early days of like AI in a way where it's like utilizing like existing information to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same. There was an effect we used to use in Call of Duty editing called Twixter.
Yeah.
That they would take a 24 frame clip of footage and you could slow it down to 60 and it would use adaptive frames. It would detect kind of what, if this was 60 frames, what would it look like?
That's interesting.
And it's so obvious. Like I can spot it from a mile away when they use it. Yeah. But even back then I would be like, that's sick. It looked like shit, but we'd be like, that's pretty cool.
To go from 24 to 60, that's kind of a stretch, dude.
Yeah.
That's like 3 times.
Yeah. But that was also an illegal software we downloaded. I had a shitload of like plugins that we just ripped off the internet that we just used. A lot of color correcting. I remember we illegally downloaded a lot of that shit. And it was all in the sake of fun. I didn't make money off any of that stuff. It was just for fun and learning. And I mean, there's actually a couple of the trick shotting guys I'm still friends with on Facebook. Like,
oh,
still
really?
To this day. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, like 2 of them I'm still friends with on Facebook.
Jeez.
That I met, that we've never met in real life.
It was like 2008, 9?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Jeez,
literally like 15 years ago, I still know these guys.
It's crazy, man. I mean, it was a big part of your life, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's just, we're just talking about video games now. And like, that wasn't even like, moving forward with the photo and video stuff. I kind of want to talk into like getting into high school, because that's when you really started like dialing in on like, okay, this is the thing now. Like you were at this point, you had your own gear, you were starting to like take photos professionally, and then also like videos as well as like a passion project, making like sketch videos. You got into AV really early on.
Yep.
Didn't you get in freshman year?
My sophomore year.
Sophomore year. Okay. Yep. So you were in AV club sophomore year of high school, and that's when you really, in school setting, I guess, you deep dove in that class. I remember you were kind of one of like the star pupils of like that class.
Yeah. So my older brother was in it when he was in high school, which was like 2007 era. So I kind of had a little in there, but I also think they went off of like your last name. So mine just being like early on the list, because I think they choose like 10 sophomores a year get into those classes in some facet. And so I was one of those. And I started making videos with a group of guys in 2010. And we were just mainly doing skits. We were either recreating skits we had seen online shot for shot,
right,
and trying to make them like as accurate as possible, or just writing like ridiculous scripts that we could do and trying to practice special effects we had seen online.
Right.
Again, just flexing those muscles.
Mimicking.
Can we do this thing that we saw? Right. Is basically what we were doing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, that's that's how you learn. You know, it's almost like you're taking inspiration from these guys that are already doing it. You know, like the what was his name with a J? The guy's like where he had like the cat in the
Julian Smith.
Julian Smith. Julian Smith, Smosh. You know, these guys that are like that are doing it on that level, that are making these sketches that are going viral at the
Yep.
time. And you know, because YouTube started in 2005. And so by the time we were doing this 2010, like that was a thing.
Yep.
You know, like you could make a channel and like have a career with a channel, even though that was like really probably like right when they started the YouTube creator program and the partner program, all that stuff, where it was just like people were actually getting paid for these videos, like the
Mhm.
Smosh guys and the Julian Smiths of the world, Ray William Johnson, even though he was just doing like the viral,
Something
like
different, yeah,
something
yeah.
a little bit different, but still like making videos online was like a thing. So that I feel like that was like our early inspiration for like sketch comedy and being able to like recreate these videos that you saw online, because that was the inspiration. You know, the Julian Smith videos, like the Malk, the stuff like that.
Julian Smith, I can attribute to a huge amount of my inspiration, and just like overall, just like the realization that like, oh shit, like people do this for a living.
Yeah.
You know, that was that early, you know, you look at people like now, like Key and Peele
Yeah.
doing those type of like short skit things. Like we weren't really exposed to stuff like that like before then. So YouTube was that first like, oh, like you can write like a 3-minute script and like it can be really good and tell a full story and be interesting, and like it doesn't have to be an hour long.
Yeah.
Same thing like Whitest Kids You Know.
Yes.
Like
oh yeah.
you throw it back to all those. I mean,
right.
Lonely Island, like the songs, like they're,
Yep.
you know, the possibilities. I was getting exposed to so many different like, oh, that's a cool idea. Oh, that's a cool idea. Oh, that's a cool idea. And then came around this YouTube channel called Film Riot, which a bunch of people probably know now, but at the time they were showing special effects and how to do them.
Right.
So not only were we seeing special effects, we were seeing how to do it. We had access to the software. So every day in class, it was like, okay, let's see if we can make you run through a wall.
Right.
Okay, let's see if we can make it look like I shoot you in the face with a gun and your head explodes.
Yeah.
So every day was just like, let's see if we can do this. And like we were getting school credit for it.
Right. Yeah, it's like exercises in video production based off what you saw was possible.
Right. And we wrote a 30-second script around this one simple idea we wanted to do.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's like, it's cool that you were able to have exposure to that early on in the school setting, because that's the stuff that people do on like a full scale, but they're like getting paid to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so cool that like as a kid, you know, sophomore year in high school, you're already having these thoughts and like realizing that like this stuff that we're seeing online, we could easily do this. We have the software, we have the gear, we have all this stuff, we have the know-how.
Yep.
Now it's just about execution.
Yeah.
And then figuring out how to like edit it on the back end.
Yep.
Yeah, man. I love that. And I think I'm so glad that you you talk about like the Julian Smith and like that era of YouTube, because I think that was really important to show us that it was possible to be like a video creator as a profession. And it was like, that was early on, like even if we didn't think about it like that, it was just like it showed us that it was possible. So I think, you know, early on, like, you know, I was filming skate videos back in the day, and, you know, even seeing like people making videos, I was like, that's like a thing. Like you can do videos and like, that's all they do.
Yeah.
Like I remember thinking about that, and like, that was crazy in 2005, 6, 7. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I remember seeing the first time I realized like that I really wanted to do it. It was well, the one time I had a dream that will probably never happen. I don't think it'll ever happen. But seeing Pretty Sweet, the skate video.
Oh,
Lakai
yeah.
Pretty Sweet.
Dude, Spike
Lakai
Jones.
Pretty Sweet?
No, that's a girl. That's a girl video.
Pretty
Yeah,
Sweet.
yeah.
So Ty Evans.
It's a girl chocolate.
Yes. Ty Evans shot that whole thing,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, it was shot by Ty Evans, directed by Spike Jones.
Yes.
Yeah.
So seeing that, as well as reminiscing on the DC video from 2001 and
Classic.
Girl, Yeah, Right.
Yep. All
Those
classics.
three videos are All very important videos in my life.
Yeah.
Specifically, though, Pretty Sweet.
Yeah.
I remember illegally downloading it,
Same.
skipping class, and watching it the day it came out.
Yep.
And just thinking to myself, if I can do this for a few years of my life, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Like, doing this is a dream. Like, going out, skating, filming skaters that are obviously much better than me, but putting those special effects that I've practiced and I've learned online into
Skateboarding.
my hobby, that's skateboarding, my sport, like that would be the ultimate crossover.
Yeah.
So Pretty Sweet gets a lot of shit online. Like I'll talk to other skaters and they're not a big fan of Pretty Sweet just because it was kind of one of the first like full HD directed skate videos.
Yeah.
But that to me means something so much different.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And I'm glad that you bring that up because like skate videos were like the beginning of like what inspired us to like want to, because I remember like, I mean, we grew up skateboarding, so it's like when we were like 2007, 8, we were watching skate videos as like a hangout thing. Like we would hang out with our friends and just watch skate videos.
Dude, I have an informal list in my head of every skate video I've watched with friends.
Exactly.
It lives
dude.
forever in my head.
For sure. And like, same, you know, and like in Yeah Right and Mindfield and the DC video.
Stay Gold.
America
Baker
Stay
has a
Gold.
Death Wish.
Baker 3. Baker has a Death Wish.
Dude.
All these videos, they're staples.
Fully Flared.
Bro, one of the best videos of all time. And that was another Spike Jonze. So Fully Flared, Spike Jonze, Yeah Right, Spike Jonze, Pretty Sweet, Spike Jonze.
Yep.
All three of them, and they're all some of my favorite skate videos of all time. But it's funny because like at the time, you could say Spike Jonze to me, and I wouldn't know who the fuck that is. But then you could say Yeah Right, Pretty Sweet, and Fully Flared, and I'd know exactly what you're talking about because they all had a different feel to them. I just didn't know that it was Spike Jonze, but that's inspiration.
Yeah. Certain songs actually play here at the shop, like when I'm on shift. No Cars Go will play here all the time. And that's the song that Mike Moe used in Fully Flared.
Oh, the first part?
Yep. And I still like remember it, like each like bar of the song. I know like what trick he was doing at what spot because I've watched that video so many times. So
I love that.
One of my favorite songs, one of my favorite video parts. Like I love Mike Moe, love that, that video. Yeah, a lot of the music that plays here comes from video parts.
Dude, I love that so much because it's like I feel like in our lives, I mean in my life specifically and definitely in your life, like skateboarding and your like passion for what you do in life, like we're completely tied together. You know, it's like for me it was downtown Grand Rapids, baby.
Biker gang, baby.
For me, it was like, the music, the video, the skateboarding, and like everything about it, like the entertainment part, like everything was just super connected always.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was like really for you too, where it's just like the skateboarding played into your video production, played into like what you like to do on this, like for fun, which is watching skate videos and skateboarding. So it's just like, it was all part of the same like world, I guess, to us as kids.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because like when we were watching this shit, it's like the people that were making these videos have the same mindset that we have now as adults.
Yeah.
So like I love that so much. Like I see like Spike Jonze, for instance. I've watched like, a bunch of like interviews with him. The only interviews that he has, because he doesn't do interviews very often.
Right.
If you watch the 9 Club interview with him, have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
So good, dude. And it's cool because it's like 2 hours of talking with Spike Jonze about like his life and like where he started with like what is it, like I think it was called Mouse, I think was one of the first videos he ever did. And just to kind of like hear his story and like think about like where I was mentally as a kid when he was making Pretty Sweet or when he was making Yeah Right, because that was one of the first ones where he was like kind of given the reins of like, all right, go for it.
Right.
Like Yeah Right was like Like Girl was a very early company back when that video came out. So it's like,
I mean, and
yeah.
doing stuff like that at the time too, because skateboarding around that time was dead.
yeah,
Like skateboarding
this was early 2000s.
Yeah, skateboarding is a failing industry. Like Tony Hawk, the Pro Skater games, I don't think had come out.
They did. They came out in '99.
Okay,
So
this
it
was
a
a little
hit.
after.
It was it was a hit.
So skateboarding was on the rise, but hiring someone like Spike Jonze to to throw money at him, whether I don't know what their original conversation was, but hey, go direct this skate video. Like that's a gamble.
For sure. And I think because it was one of Spike Jonze's first endeavors in that realm.
Yeah.
Because he was shooting music videos before that.
Right.
He was a big music video director. So to be able to kind of like delve into like the skate video scene, this was kind of like an opportunity for him. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't like he wasn't getting paid a lot, I don't think. So I think it was
Probably
more
not.
so like, hey, let me try to do this. And they trusted him and they were friends with him.
Yeah.
So just kind of like, it all kind of worked out because Spike Jonze was like into skateboarding. He wasn't like a big skateboarder.
He was the homie.
He was the homie. He was the filmer. He was taking photos. He was the one shooting photos for like the magazines and stuff. He was shooting on film, black and white film with the external flashes and figuring out like that was Spike Jonze. Like before there was the video, it was like figuring out how to get the best shot on film, running through a fucking full roll of film within like a few takes because he's shooting on like like actually doing like film continuous fast shutters. Like, bruh, you just ran through $10 roll of film in one trick. Like
back then, probably not $10, but
that's true. Yeah, for sure, $3.
Yeah,
but still, it's just like it's cool that like that was that's like so for him at the time, it was like it's still like a like hooking up the homies type of deal, where it's just like, or even on him, like it was the homies giving him an opportunity, which was so cool.
To do a fun project together that ended up being, I mean, that's still one of the greatest skate videos of all time.
Timeless, dude. And like he was able to utilize his connections in the world of film to be able to pull people in, like Owen. Owen Wilson came in and did that part that was like fully scripted, but like
fake.
It felt like it was real, but it was in fake. The context.
Right.
But it's just like little things like that brought those videos over the edge. And the editing and like the special effects and all these things, like with the Lakai fully flared, that phantom camera. Dude, I mean, the whole set was rigged with explosions and they shot it on 1,000 frames per second camera, which was like thousands of dollars at the time. Like a phantom camera.
Well,
like that
would
was
have been
like
what, 2009, 2008, 2009,
maybe even earlier, dude.
They only had like the Phantom 1 or 2, which I think shot like 1,000 frames per second. You could only get like 60 seconds worth of recording time on a 512 gigabyte SSD at the time.
And it's crazy because it's just like at the time that was such cutting edge technology. And they were using it in skate videos. Like that was so sick.
That's the ultimate example of just pushing the limit. We can do this better. We can do this better. We can do this better.
Yeah, exactly.
Fully Flared is the prime example of the first full example of a full skate video, HD, slow-mo, etc., special effects. That's
Yeah, especially in like that world where it's like all you knew was fucking Sony VX with the depth lens, 480p, that's it. That's all skateboarding was up until like that era of like HD. And I think Minefield was shot in HD, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. Fuck. Getting my timelines messed up. I think like Minefield came out in like 6, 7 maybe, 2006 or 7.
I don't know because Minefield was Alien Workshop. I don't know. I can't remember if
I don't know if it was
either
HD
way,
or not.
whether they were HD or 4 or 4.3 crop, like the fully flared just had a more cinematic value to it.
For sure. And
where the lens choices they were using were much different from the other ones.
Absolutely. 100%.
Fisheyes versus zoom lenses, whatever.
Yeah, and they were doing
using
a lot of double angle stuff where it's like fisheye plus long lens.
where they had a camera crew there. They had a couple
Yeah.
cameras instead of just like one dude with a, fucking
VX
or whatever the Canon equivalent was.
handheld stuff. Yeah, the GL2
The
types.
GL, or the XLs. They had the XLs too.
Yeah, that was like the more cinema line.
Yeah.
It's like still on DV tapes.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's cool that we were able to like live through that whole phase.
Yeah.
Of like, because even like, when we were in early AV days, like they were shooting on GL2s, and that was like before we got the whatever was like HVXs,
the T3 or the XC10s or whatever.
Oh, word.
And then the
then
T2Is.
we ended up getting the T2Is. Yeah, the DSLRs. Yeah, because we transitioned from the video cameras into the DSLRs.
So the first year I had AV, we shot on GL1s. GL2s.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, because that was the early days.
Mr. Blevins, shout out. He that like one summer, because he knew we were transitioning to DSLRs, he let me take home an XL2 for the summer.
Oh, wow.
So I had an XL2 to shoot stuff over like a summer, from 2010 2011. He just let me take one home,
Dude, that's sick.
which like at the time those were like a couple $1,000 cameras, and
for sure.
now I'm sure you could get one for like probably $50,
yeah,
or less.
Shit, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's cool though that we were able to kind of like see that evolution, because then it's like by the time we got to where we are now, or even 5, 6, 7 years ago, we were able to really appreciate that jump, and like we were able to kind of like transition and already know like how to use it on like a shitty level.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an easier thing where it's just like we went into it like already knowing how to use the shit. We were just like, we just had a better quality.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the age old phrase of it's not what you have, it's how you know how to use it, or
absolutely.
like
No, and in music we say it's the ear, not the gear, and that's what we say in music. So it's kind of like the same thing in video. It's like you can make a full scale movie on a GL2 XL2 if you have the right framing, lighting, actors.
Right.
It's like if you do everything else and all you're shooting on, like, I mean, you could shoot a movie on this, so it's just like, it's all about like what the content is versus like what you're shooting on. And that's something that we were able to see really early on, where it's just like, well, people were still making hit movies on GL2s. So it's like we didn't have that like almost jadedness of like, I need this to make this.
It didn't exist.
It didn't exist at the time. It's like, well, we were doing this already. So it's just like we had the mindset of like, we're gonna make it work, like whatever we gotta do, we have a vision, we're gonna make it happen. You know what I mean? And I think that's really important that we were able to kind of live through that, to be able to like have that mindset growing up, being a teenager, being a young adult, getting into this industry, I guess, you know what I mean, as a creative.
Right.
Yeah, man. So skateboarding and film, I mean, well, videography, that was huge. So, we're talking about being in high school in AV, and that was a huge part of your life. So I want to talk about Mr. Blevins. You did say shout out Mr. Blevins. Shout out Mr. Blevins. He was such a good teacher, dude.
Yes.
He was the man, and he was the homie. And I think that was something that like I didn't get from a lot of teachers, but like he felt like he was like a friend. You know what I mean? And even though like I wasn't as close to him as you were, I know you had a really close relationship with him.
Yeah.
But like he always felt like a friend.
Yeah. He was one of those teachers that I think he just overall just treats every student and every person just like an adult.
Yeah.
Like ever since, I'm like 14 years old in his class, and he just treated me like an adult.
Yeah.
And like when you get treated like an adult, you can learn how to act like an adult, I guess.
Yeah.
So he's very like, he'll give you ultimate trust until you break it, which is a very rewarding thing. Like you have full trust from an adult at 14 years old with thousands of dollars of equipment. It's obviously all insured, but like if you fuck it up, like
That's it.
you learn. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And like no person in my entire life had ever given me that before him. So, you know, that led to me just fully entrusting him, entrusting the class, wanting to motivate myself into the class more because I'm like, this guy trusts me. Obviously, there's something going on here. And that just led one thing to another over the years of later on, you know, him paying for me to enter a film festival and letting me skip class. Like, because again, he understood that like what we were doing wasn't malicious. It wasn't, you know, breaking any like laws. He was entrusting. And that's like
Yeah.
the ultimate quality of a teacher that you can ever ask for.
Yeah, 100%, man. Especially in an industry like what he was teaching in, because he wasn't teaching math, he wasn't teaching history and all that shit. He was teaching audio, video, creatives.
Yeah.
He was breeding the next creatives of the world. You know, that's the nurturing that they need. You know, where it's just like, hey, take this stuff and run with it. You know what I mean? Almost like take you off the leash in a way, where
Yeah.
it's just like allowing you to skip class to shoot videos, you
Yeah.
know, allowing you to take this $1,000 worth of equipment and feel like you are the one in charge, giving you that responsibility. I think that absolutely plays into like your mindset of like responsibilities as a kid,
Yep.
of being 14 years old, being entrusted with all these things and like being like trusted to go outside of school on school hours to shoot videos. Like that's something huge that I feel like he, you know, maybe just saw it as like a regular thing, but like as like being a kid, I still remember like that was like I never took that like for granted. I always felt like it was like a
It's a special privilege.
special privilege, bro, where it's just
Yeah.
like, damn, I get to do this. I
Yeah.
get to do this, you know, and
Yeah.
he was the one that was gifting us those opportunities. And I think that's like, and I really do, you know, like I can't stress enough, like shout out, man, like because he was that guy for a lot of kids. And I think that was really cool, like because it made us feel like we could do this. Like this was a real thing. And he was like, he was treating it very seriously. And he took the craft very seriously. And that
Oh,
was
yeah.
something that I always respected, because it was just like, if you were messing around, you would get, you know, you would get reprimanded, as you should, because it was like, this is serious. This is not just fucking around. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, we're having fun with cameras,
Yeah.
but this is a real thing, and
Yeah.
you should take it seriously, and you should actually like, you know, treat it like a profession, not just like a hobby.
Yeah. If you want to fuck around on camera, but write it into a script and make it funny, and you get class credit for it.
Exactly, and then win a Vinny for it. It's like even things like that, you know, throwing like events for us, you know,
Yeah.
like giving us awards for videos that we created and almost making it like an Oscars thing. Like
Yeah.
that was so cool. Like I remember going to the Vinnies, winning 2 Vinnies and being like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
Going
dude.
on stage
Yeah,
and
dude.
like, this is so cool,
You look
dude.
forward to that all year. And it was always so fun. It was the best feeling. Like you felt like a fucking celebrity
For sure, man.
in front of
Especially
like 100 people.
Especially you, like you had probably like 5 videos in the Vinnies one year, probably something like that. Like you were like,
I don't off the top of my head, I don't know. I know at the end of like my senior year, I had, because I think you were only allowed to take home 3 trophies a year,
okay,
and I know I had 9,
yeah,
but I think like under my belt, I had probably like 15 or 20. That like
just veteran, bro.
like I think, you know, like my younger sibling, like he ended up going through the course as well. But I think a couple of years after, or maybe the year that he was like finishing up, I think my parents donated all the Vinnies back because they reuse
really?
them. Yeah, so I don't think we have any of the trophies anymore, but
Damn.
we had like a box full of them because also my older brother was in it.
Oh
and,
wow,
like, he
yeah,
had
that's right.
some.
You said that.
So we had like, yeah, we were swimming in Vinnies. We just had.
We were swimming in Vinnies,
Dude,
bro.
we were swimming in Vinnies.
Bro, you just throw the Vinny in the toilet and just piss on it like Kanye with his Grammy.
Dude, that's pretty much it. Nah, no.
No, no disrespect to the Vinnies, bro. That shit was so cool, man. I gotta say, man, this is like, because I mean, obviously, you took a lot from Mr. Blevins and AV and the Vinnies and like the whole high school experience with audio video production.
Yeah.
A lot more than I did, and even in my experience, I really felt like that had a really big impact on my life because I got into AV my senior year, and I got directly into broadcasting too. So it was
Fuck
like
yeah, dude.
it was so
seriously
much fun.
the
My
broadcasting.
favorite
I
class.
still like. I was just on the news last week, for like some business related stuff and just being on like their set because they do it live. So I was
Yeah.
on their live set and just seeing everything. I was like, damn, this is just like fucking
Broadcast.
third hour, bro.
Yeah, dude, like third hour broadcast.
It was so much fun.
Yes,
I missed that a
dude.
lot, and that's another one of those entrusting things.
Yes,
You know,
100%.
he allowed, what was our team? 7 people.
Yep.
It was 7 people were allowed to put on the afternoon announcements at a high school of 2,000 students.
Yeah.
And we didn't swear. There was no nudity. There was no fucking around.
Yeah.
The announcements were delivered. They were coherent. They were concise. They had images. They had good audio. Like, I couldn't imagine if I was a teacher allowing 7 16-year-olds to do that.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
For sure. But I mean, it came with caveats because like we were held to certain standards where it's just like if you didn't do these things, you were not allowed to run the announcements. Like if your team didn't have the topics ready, if your team didn't have the teleprompter ready, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Did that fly go in your drink?
No, I just knew you were looking at it.
It's just this guy's throwing me off. But it's just like that kind of entrusting thing where it's just like he like trained us to be like, hey, you have to have XYZ done if you want to do the announcements.
Yep.
And I remember like because third hour is basically the prep hour.
The prep, yep.
And then after fourth hour, that's when you would do the announcements.
12:32.
Yeah.
Because I remember we would go out to lunch, which he always told us. I don't know about it. And
What do you mean?
going out to lunch.
Okay.
Because it was against the rules for
right.
Because I was in broadcasting as a junior, which
right. Everyone was in his seniors.
I think I was the only junior in
right.
broadcasting.
Everyone was in his seniors. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would go out to lunch with Pat.
Oh, Pat Harney. Shout out.
Steve Hahn.
Shout out Steve Hahn.
Zach Zambergen and Evan Coleman. We would go out to lunch.
The homies.
Yeah. And so 12:32, we would run up to the broadcasting door, which had no handle on the outside. You had to be let in from the inside.
Yeah.
And
from the field.
Yes, from the field.
Yeah.
They would let me out early before Pat parked his car.
Yeah.
So I could run
the Audi.
So I could run across the grass.
And because you were driving the speed bumps.
Yes, because if I went in through the main doors, they would check my ID.
Yes. Mr. Knievel.
Yes. Which I filmed his daughter's wedding. But I would run across the field, and I remember Blevins letting me in through the side door.
Wow, he saw you run it. He's like, yo.
Yeah, he'd be doing the announcements, and he'd shake his head. He's like,
get in here.
And yeah,
because that was right by broadcasting. That door.
Yeah, that was that hallway.
That was like that hall.
The hallway, yeah,
with the library.
Mm-hmm. So he would let me in, and I remember him just being a little upset, but it would be one of those like, you don't tell, I don't tell kind of thing. Yeah,
slap on the wrist, but hey.
Yeah, because because again,
at least you're here.
He treated us like an adult.
Yeah.
It's not like I was off like doing, black tar heroin during lunch. Like I was just going to get, steak sandwiches at Pat's house.
Yeah. Hey, dude. Shout out Tammy,
and
dude.
cranberry spritzers. I remember she made us those a bunch too.
Dude.
Just cranberry juice and sparkling water.
Shout out Tammy, dude.
It was great.
I love that. Oh man. I love that, dude. I mean, yeah, shout out Mr. Blevins. I mean, it's just like the AV program was amazing. I mean, I credit a lot of my my early creative endeavors to that senior year of like I had basically all electives, and I strategically planned it that way. So like I think the whole year I had like maybe 2 core classes the whole year. So it was like all art, broadcasting, AV, band, and it was just like all creative stuff all year.
My schedule my senior year, both semesters, was the same. it was math first hour,
Yep.
and then it was my independent study, which
Yep.
first semester was a film examination study, which was just watching
Amazing.
movies, and second semester it was a special effects thing that I
Amazing.
created. Third hour is broadcasting. Fourth hour I had a science course, I think. Fifth hour I had AV again,
Yep.
and then sixth hour was art class.
I love
So,
that so much,
which
bro.
second hour I slept both semesters every single day.
Independent study, baby.
I was studying with my eyes closed.
I'm studying. I'm just picturing it.
That's pretty much what it was.
Dude, I love that so much. So past high school, you got into a position where you wanted to go to film school, and you wanted to go to a school called MPI, Motion Picture Institute.
Yep.
And you were in a position where you needed to pay for admissions and you needed to submit your own videos.
Yep.
And Mr. Blevins actually came in and helped you out with that.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, something that was really important, because that means that he saw a lot of potential in you, because he invested his own money into you.
Yeah. So it would have been, let me think. It would have been like April 2012. So April 2012, there was a film festival at the DAFT, the Detroit Art, Film, and Television Festival in Detroit. So what that was, it was high school students were allowed to enter films that they had made into a festival circuit where they were evaluated by real like festival judges. So I think each entry was $15, and so I would have been like 16 years old, and I don't think I had a job at the time, or maybe I did, but I had no money.
Okay.
So the like letter had come to the high school for him to like share with students, and I was the only one that he came to and was like, hey, you should enter this. So I had a couple of films. I had shot a wedding the previous summer that I had just like sitting around. I had like a mini documentary I'd made, and then I had a like dramatic PSA, like this like ridiculously dramatic, like
at 16.
Yeah.
Damn.
Like it was like about underage drinking is so bad.
Yeah.
So I had 3 films, and I wanted to enter all of them. And he was like, I'll tell you what, I'll pay for all of them. And like, if you don't take any place, like, who cares? You know, you can enter, and like whatever happens, happens. So I enter them in, and I get a letter in the mail that all of them had placed in the top 5 or 10 or something like that.
Jesus.
And one had been selected in the top for best of show. So I got invited to Detroit to go to the ceremony. And the grand prize of the whole festival was a $11,000 scholarship to go to college, which at the time, you know, I did have a job. I worked at Walgreens. And my I wanted to go to this film school that we had applied to, and my parents took me on like a visit to go see it, and they told me that I wasn't allowed to formally apply until I'd saved up $1,000.
Okay.
Which would have been like a 10% down payment.
Right.
So I was working a lot to save up $1,000, which when you're in high school, you're working 2 shifts a week max.
Easy.
At $7.40 an hour. Like,
yeah,
how much are we really talking here? You know, I'm making $100 a week.
Yeah, for sure.
Still paying for my own gas, part of my own insurance as well. So like, you know, I'm making next to nothing.
Right.
So I win this festival. So they give me a full ride scholarship. Plus I had put $500 towards a down payment. So they ended up giving me that back, which was sick.
Yeah.
And it was all paid for. Like, I wouldn't have done it if it weren't for Blevins.
Yeah, man. I mean, but that was your almost like the platform that you had to jump off of, where it's just like he knew Like he saw in you, that was the reason why he reached out to you.
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know, he saw that like this kid is not like everyone else. You know, he knew that like you were gonna be somebody, I guess, in the industry. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, this dude could do something. He has potential. I know that if he buckles down, he can do something with this. And
Yep.
that's like another reason why like I wanted to kind of like go on that, like talking about Blevins, because it's like that was something that like your parents could never be that person. You know what I'm
No.
saying? Like it has to be someone in that field
Yep.
that sees the potential, that's willing to invest in you. And I'm so glad that he was that person, because, you know, he was so close to you. So that had a lot of influence on you. So I'm sure like going into film school, that was like one of those things where it's just like, I gotta like I gotta like put on for my boy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, my goal, I remember thinking to myself when I was there, like, man, like I just have to make something that I can make some money off of, and then I'll like pay him back. Like that was the goal.
Yeah.
Like, which never really happened via film. There was a number of years later where he was raising some money for like a relative, and I had like a shitload of cash. I don't remember how I had so much money at the time, but I like sent him everything I had.
Wow.
Which he ended up they ended up like figuring out whatever it was with the relative. I don't remember what it was, but he ended up, all the money that he raised from like friends, he ended up donating to charity. So it was like fine. But yeah, I think I had like $400 or $500, and I just like gave it all to him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like that was probably something for him, like, man, this guy's so like just another like full circle moment for him, you know, as an adult. Like I knew this guy was, you know, like a special kid.
Not a piece of shit.
Yeah.
That's the goal, dude.
Yeah, I mean, so going to MPI, a Motion Picture Institute, that you know, a big deal.
Yep.
Being a kid, and you were 18 at the time, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
18.
Yep.
So going into MPI, I know you say like obviously like the motive, as a kid, you know, was like I want to pay this guy back. You know, I can't believe he did this for me, type deal. But the school aspect itself, when you got into it, was it easier or harder than you expected it to be?
It was way easier,
Okay.
because what I didn't realize going into it, and what a lot of people, I guess it makes sense now that I think about it, or you know, I thought about it very soon after, was people go to this school to learn from the basics.
Right.
So, you know, day one I go into editing class, and they're like, okay, so this is Premiere Pro, and like
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
how it works. And like I had been using it for like almost a decade at that point.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, well, so I mean, I went up to almost all my teachers that didn't have to do with on set or pre or post, or like, you know, intense post production, and I tested out of all the classes.
Wow.
So like the first semester, me and my two roommates, like we were kind of like just checked out, because
Yeah.
we had been doing this for a while. Like we didn't need to learn like what shutter speed meant. We didn't need to learn what color temperature was.
Yeah.
Like all the vocab, like we kind of just, so they gave us all of our tests like within the first week or 2 weeks or whatever, and we just like did them fine. Like I remember the first editing class, we got raw footage from a music video, and we were told what song it went with, and we just had to edit the music video, and it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
And I think we all did it like that night, and we
Yeah.
literally, we didn't see our editing teacher for the first like 100 days. We're done.
It's like, hey, we'll catch up with you when you're at our level.
Yeah, I mean, there was like that. There was like we had a whole like month course on like file storage and like organization, which like for some people, like they've never done that.
Right.
So like it does make sense. Like
Yeah,
I don't
like
think
folder hierarchy and shit.
yeah,
like
and like I
that.
don't think
Yeah.
those people are stupid, but they've just never done it. So
Yeah.
it makes sense. And like we were able to like kind of talk to them and just be like, hey, you know, we've been kind of doing this, so can we just not do this here?
Yeah.
Because we also work full-time jobs, all of us, and they were
Yeah.
just like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is kind of cool being in that position, but at the same time, it's like, damn, like I thought this was like the elite of the elite, and like all
Yeah.
these like wannabes are in this class, you know? It's just like, damn. Y'all don't think this is common sense?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough part because I think that's a lot of trade schools.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of, regular schools, like, whatever they're called, whatever colleges are called, tier 1 college,
Yeah.
whatever.
Whatever.
Normal college, like
Yeah.
MSU, let's say. Like
Yeah.
when you get a degree, that like has something to it. When you go to a trade school, you just get a certificate saying like this person just knows what's going on somewhat.
Yeah.
That's kind of what a trade school certificate is.
Yeah.
And you're not really told that ahead of time. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But looking back, I don't know if film school is all worth my while.
No.
Because like most things in art, self-taught is just as accessible as schooling.
Yeah. So at the end of it all, like MPI was like a cool experience, but it wouldn't have necessarily moved the needle for you as far as like progressing in your film career because it didn't teach you too much. Or
yeah,
did you did it teach you some things that you didn't expect to learn?
It taught me a lot about just on-set protocol and professionalism. So like when you're on set, there's certain things you can and cannot do. There's certain things you can and cannot say. There's certain keywords that you need to understand. It also taught me that like working on movies is not for me. Like we did it. We did the on-set thing. We built sets. We set up shots. We did whatever. And I just realized early on, like, this is just too slow for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to set up for an hour and a half to shoot 30 seconds of footage.
Yeah.
I'm too impatient for that. And, you've got guys working 16, 18, 20-hour days for, at the time, the starting day rates for paid positions, which on most movies, at least at the time, were unpaid.
Yeah.
But if you had a paid position, you started at $100 a day.
Okay.
And like fast forward to now, like imagine making $100 a day.
That's crazy.
That's
For
insane.
like 12-hour days.
Yeah. Oh, they'd be longer. Most movie sets, you're 16 hours minimum. If you're not in it, especially if you're non-union, you're doing longer.
Ooh.
So I realized literally within my first week of school that I would take a stab at it, but I knew deep down it was not for me.
I'm glad that you bring that up because that's actually part of the notes where I had like a question where it's just like at the end of it all, did you feel like it was something that was necessary for you in your film career, or if it was something that it kind of like it was necessary to show you that that's not what you wanted to do in life? And that's the answer to that question right there, where it's just like you went through it because it was a passion of yours, but then you went through it and it showed you that like long term, this is not where I see myself. And that's like, I'm glad that it happened so early at 18, 19 years old for you, because these are things people go into those schools at 35, 40 years old and then realize that's not what they want to do. But by that point, it's way too late for them to pivot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that was like a blessing in disguise that you were able to go to the school for minimal money.
Free. I mean, yeah, I was
basically
just paying
free.
my rent, my apartment bills. That was it. And food and living.
So it's like you were working a job to pay for your expenses, but school was completely taken care of.
Yep.
So it was just like that was a blessing for you to like not have to pay for school and then still get the lessons that you needed, which was that this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
It's funny. I mean, and some people learn those lessons hard where it's like they pay tens of thousands of dollars to realize that that's not what they want to do. And like we talk about, regular collegiate schools, that happens every single day.
Yeah.
Or it's like these kids go to school at these regular colleges, pay $20,000 a year, and then they don't know what they want to do, and then end up like throwing it down the tube. So it's just like the fact that it happened to you so early and like kind of let you know like that you don't want to do that, but then like you were also able to like realize like, but I still have the talent, I could still make a living off of this, but I just don't have to be on film sets. I don't have to be in feature films, short films, I don't have to be in that world.
Yep.
But still I can make content and like you can take these things professionally.
Right.
But it's like I do kind of want to talk into like the next transition, which would be coffee. And, you know,
Yeah.
right? So that's like you started in Lantern, and you said what was it, 2016?
16. Yeah.
So that was like, what was that, like a year or two after you graduated from MPI?
2 years after I graduated.
Okay, so wait, actually, before coffee, did you go into Coastline before coffee?
Yes.
So Coastline, you were working. So we should maybe talk about Coastline real quick, because that was kind of a brief
Yeah.
stint in your life
I
where you
mean-
were working some pretty big
I mean, I
gigs.
worked for Coastline for 8 years.
Oh, so it started out with Coastline. You were working through when you still worked at
Yeah.
Lantern.
Yep.
Okay.
So coffee actually starts when I was in college.
Okay.
So Amazon subscriptions had just come out.
Okay.
And so Amazon subscriptions at the time, if you subscribed to an item, I think you were getting like 10% off. This was like in the early days. And so I was working at Walgreens. I worked 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. 5 days a week.
Damn.
And so we closed at midnight at the store I worked at, but we were required to stay till 1 a.m.
Right.
And my classes start at 8 a.m.
Damn.
So from the moment I clocked out of work to the moment I had to be in class, there were 7 hours.
7 hours. Yeah.
So Red Bull was like huge in my life. So I was ordering 2 24 packs of Red Bull a month subscription. So I was getting 10% off each pack.
Yeah.
And I noticed after like 2 or 3 months, I was like starting to feel like really unwell. And so I started doing some research on like caffeine alternatives, which coffee came up. And I was like, yeah, like I like coffee. Like I've been drinking coffee since I was a kid, since I was 3 years old. My grandma actually, like, she retired and she was a barista at Starbucks when I was like 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
So
Dang.
like,
Full circle.
right. So coming like all these years later, I'm like, you know, I like coffee. I've been drinking it forever, but it was just like always like coffee with cream.
Yeah.
So I remember like at my job, I remember buying some blueberry flavored Dunkin' donut coffee and like having that. And I remember just smelling like amazing. Like I remember just being like, oh my God, like this is the best coffee money can buy.
Yeah, right.
Is
right,
blueberry flavored Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Yeah. Sugary as hell.
Yeah. And I remember going to which never go to this Reddit r/coffee. Like if you go there, you're fucked. Like you're going to be looking down at equipment. You're going to go down a rabbit hole. Next thing you know, you're going to be like $1,000 deep in random equipment that you definitely don't need. But that's what happened to me. I found out about what a Chemex was. Which,
Oh, yeah.
Again, so we're going to go full circle here. So Julian Smith, we talked about earlier.
Yes.
So right when I was looking into this coffee thing, he had posted a picture of a device in his hand that was designed. It was beautifully designed. It had a wood collar with a yarn tape knot, and it was a glass piece that he was holding that was shattered, but he was just holding part of it. And the caption said, "Well, I'm awake now," and then it said #Chemex.
Yeah.
So I googled what a Chemex was because I never heard of it. Come to find out, it was a coffee brewer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what is this? What is a Chemex? So I look up a bunch of videos and I'm watching this pour over. It was the first pour over. So this would have been 2013. I had never heard of one.
Yeah.
So
Early.
I'm like, I had been saving money for a camera at the time. I wanted to buy a Canon C100, which retailed for $5,000. So I had like $3,500 saved up to buy this camera, and I was like saving. I was like, a couple more months, I'll be able to buy one. But I saw this Chemex, and they were like $40 at Williams Sonoma at the mall by our apartment. So I remember looking at my roommates and being like, yo, I'm about to go drop bands on this Chemex and coffee and filters. Do you guys want to come with me? And I remember Joe, my roommate, saying, and I'll remember this forever, he said, "It's your money. You spend it how you want."
Hell yeah.
And we got in my car and we drove to the mall. And the guy at the mall was like super helpful. Like he knew a lot. At the time, I thought this guy was a fucking genius.
Yeah.
Looking back now, he just like definitely had a script he was reading off of, but he helped us out a lot. We ended up buying some illy beans,
Okay. Yeah.
which we bought those. We bought a hand grinder. We bought a Chemex, filters. I didn't have a kettle at the time. So what I was doing is I was boiling water.
in the microwave.
No, on our stove.
Oh.
And I would take our green soup ladle and I was pouring water with a ladle over the grounds. And we were drinking coffee that way for months. And then, and I don't know why I didn't realize this before. Like I was like 18, 19 years old, and I didn't realize that locally owned coffee shops existed. Like I thought it was just chains.
Yeah.
So I posted on r/coffee like, hey, I live in Detroit, like specifically this area. What coffee shop should I go to? And I got responses back of just like these, dessert oasis, dessert oasis, dessert oasis. And so off I go to Rochester to go visit the original Dessert Oasis location. And that was the first specialty experience I had ever had. And it's still one of the most important moments of my entire life.
Wow.
And I've talked to their owner, Nate. Now that I've been in the industry for so long, like, I'm homies with him now, but like that dude changed my life. Like it wasn't anything. Now, if I went there and had the same experience, I probably wouldn't bat an eye at it. But back then it was insane.
Yeah.
Like it changed the way I think about service, hospitality, flair, style, overall, just like serving someone something good that can have that impact on their life. And you can probably scroll back in my Instagram far enough. I think I posted a picture of it, and I got like a caramel cappuccino.
Wow.
Which like now when people order that here, like I like giggle
Like,
inside because it's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like I was that person at one point. And I took that idea and that premise, and I just was like, fuck, like I have to learn more about this. I have to pursue this in some capacity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was like when the doors open where you realized this was a thing. And it's funny how it stemmed from like you wanting to like drink it to stay awake to then realize oh, there's like a craft to this. Like, and that's like kind of goes back to like what we were saying earlier, where it's like once you figure out something that you like, you kind of just go all in on.
Yeah.
It's like that's not like everyone, it's like if they like coffee and they like Dunkin' coffee, like they might buy like a Mr. Coffee brewer and just like buy some fucking Folgers or something, you know what I mean? They're not gonna go buy a Chemex. They're not gonna buy a hand grinder. They're not gonna boil water on the stove just to have a cup of coffee.
Right.
So, and I think that like plays into like who you are and like what you think about the things that you love. It's like you loved coffee. It's like, how can I go all in on coffee? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's cool that like you had that experience with specialty coffee, because that's really, like what changed everything for you. Because you liked coffee since you were a kid, but it's just like being exposed to specialty coffee. That was like the next level that you didn't even know existed until you went to that Reddit forum, where it's just like you were just looking for something and you found it. And I think that's something like, later on that ended up playing into obviously what the career path that you ended up choosing.
Yeah.
Because then you started working at Lantern in 2016.
Yep.
And obviously, you didn't start being a manager or anything. You were just a regular worker that had come from Starbucks.
Yep.
You were a Starbucks guy.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and not obviously like, and I say that to say like Starbucks is not a craft coffee place. So it's just like you weren't trained in the way that like craft coffee or specialty coffee rather, those locations are trained.
Right.
So it's like, I guess, moving into like that kind of conversation of like that first endeavor into specialty coffee and like kind of like how that changed like when you started working in the industry. How did that change your your feeling of coffee? And like that's when you really started deep diving, obviously, like what led you down that path to like to get into it that far?
Yeah, I mean, when you get into the specialty world, it's so much different from kind of the chain.
Yeah.
Because the speed is still there. Like you want to be quick and you want to deliver something quickly, but the time it takes to make something of quality is forgiven.
Yeah.
So you have the ability to do, a pour over or do latte art or measure things out via grams instead of pumps. And those take longer, but the overall quality you get is so much higher.
Yeah.
And people that come to specialty cafes and people that are in the specialty world, they understand and they're more forgiving and they're more lenient and they just take things slower. So you do get to focus on quality. You do, let's say you mess up on a drink, like you can remake it and you can taste the drinks. Like you become a master in a sense that like you are taking ownership of what you're serving, whereas you're not just like a cog in the machine. You're not one of 9 employees working at a time, which is what it was when I was at Starbucks. I was one of 9 people. We were doing $6,000 to $7,000 a day at the cafe I worked at with 9 people.
Yeah.
And that's insanity.
Yeah.
We were pumping out 99 drinks per 30 minutes.
Jesus Christ.
At Lantern, a drink, we're lucky to get 20 drinks in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's 20. We're doing 20% of the speed.
Yeah.
The quality is much different. The actual physical combination of the drinks is much different. And we're doing it with, less than 20% of the staff. So
for sure. But it's just like the intention of the specialty coffee location versus the intention of the Starbucks location, whereas like the Starbucks is obviously focused on the dollar.
Yep.
Focused on the time.
Yep.
So it's just like quick in, quick out, charge these guys.
Yep.
But it's just like with specialty coffee, they come in knowing that this is going to take a second. It's going to be amazing. And it may cost a little bit more per drink because I'm drinking good shit.
Yeah.
So it's like it's almost like working in specialty coffee. It was probably cool for you to kind of like be able to take a deep breath in the sense of like I don't have 1,000 people screaming at me to like get their triple macchiato with 3 pumps of caramel in it or whatever the fuck they're asking for.
Right.
It's just like you're not having to worry about that. You're worrying about like just getting a good drink out and like these people like appreciating your time. And it's just like that's a totally different environment. You know what I mean? So I'm sure that really played into like your love for the specialty coffee world.
Yeah, I mean it comes full circle right back to the whole Mr. Blevins thing.
Yeah.
When you're working at Starbucks, you're treated as like a subhuman. You're a cog in the machine. Please hurry up. I need my caffeine. You're like useless. You're whatever. You're a child. You're a kid. Whatever. Like you don't matter. And when you're working at a specialty place, it's like, oh, like you're a human. You're an adult. Like I'm gonna treat you like an adult. I'm gonna treat you like a human. You get treated differently.
Yeah.
And that trust that those people have on you and whatever, like that is so impactful, and it empowers you to deliver a better product.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it's like in a place like this too, where it's like it like this feels like that local energy is super like high. It's just like that small business, like the local coffee shop. You know what I mean? It's like that's not the feeling that you get at Starbucks.
No.
It's like you can't go to any Starbucks and get that feeling.
No, and I mean the more that I work in coffee, I mean this will be about 10 years, 9.5, 10 years I've been in the industry. Your local coffee shop nearest to you is more than likely it's the pinnacle of your community.
Yeah.
Especially in this side of town, there's tons of cafes and there's different, quadrants, if you want to call them, of our city. And so many people say that like this shop is the pinnacle. It is the pillar of this community.
Wow.
And we get asked all the time, 'cause, the side of town we're on has a lot of, people experiencing houselessness and stuff like that. So we get asked a lot if we ever want to move locations, and it would be detrimental to this side of town if we left.
Yeah.
We just celebrated 10 years this year. If we left, it would be awful for this community. So no, like with this, we've been here, we're staying here, we're going to be here, and this community needs us to be here.
Yeah, man, I love that, and it means a lot to the community. I'm sure that like the owner, like one of the co-owners of this facility, has no plans to leave this area. You know, and like this is our neighborhood. And I think that's something that a worker at Starbucks is not gonna feel like that. So
Never.
yeah, and I love that, and obviously, you've gone really far into coffee, you know, to the point where Lantern has brought you to connections outside of this country, you know,
Mhm.
where you've actually gone on tours basically
Yeah.
and gone and hung out with the people that are producing, you know, this coffee in other countries.
Yeah.
And I kind of want you to talk about that experience of like you know, learning that side and realizing how much goes into it, and like that you know, from the seed and from the fruit, you know, talk about that experience.
Yeah. So a lot of times as baristas, we get blamed for being needy.
Yeah.
So you know, wages in the U.S. are down for everybody, and it's tough for the food beverage world because everyone is underpaid no matter what. Being a barista is a very intense job, and a lot of people will like laugh at that, you know, because
Yeah.
we're pouring liquid into a cup, right? Um, but you're on your feet for 9 to 10 hours a day. You have to be on. You're smiling. You're
Mentally.
mentally
Yeah.
on for 9 to 10 hours a day. Um,
It's a lot.
you're, you know, some shops out there pay minimum wage, which we definitely do not here, but some shops do, and you're making at some shops less than $1 an hour in tips. So you're not making a lot of money, and the amount of effort you put in is far more than any office job that exists on this planet, and I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah.
Um, so going to Honduras, I was under this impression that, you know, the industry has broadcasted to me that baristas have it so good and I will never understand what it's like to be a farmer, which I felt guilty in a way going to a farm because I felt like
Right.
I was not deserving to go to this place to meet these people. Um, which I was very quickly proven wrong. The first farm I went to was Finca de la Armadillo in Comayagua, Honduras. The owner is Rodilio Pacheco, which was the 2004 Honduras Cup of Excellence winner. Um, Visiting him, I was the first white person to visit his farm in like 25 years.
Wow.
And the amount of gratitude and how thankful he was that I was there. He was like in tears.
Wow.
So after, I mean, through some translation, he basically explained like the industry has gone through this phase where it's difficult to get buyers to come directly to farms because of a lot of, you know, travel restrictions and, you know, it's easier just to do it through importers kind of thing.
Right.
Where there's at the time there was a lot of difficulties creating relationships through importers. So after talking to him and just, I was so thankful to be there, you know, in his presence. But he was, I mean, literally, he was in tears that myself and the other couple of people had been there.
Yeah.
So it kind of refreshed my mind that no end of the spectrum has it better or worse than the other. We're just in different places that are they're different because of causes out of our control. You know, he doesn't have as much overhead as I do as a business owner. But I have different amenities that I have access to because of the infrastructure that the United States has.
Right.
It's not my fault that he doesn't have air conditioning. You know, the Honduras in the mountains, they don't have that infrastructure. And I don't need to feel guilty about that. But, you know, he doesn't need to feel guilty that I pay X amount in rent every month because property is expensive. So
Yeah.
it was this understanding moment of, oh, wow, like we both are in the same supply chain and we both provide different things that are important. And there's no sense in one of us feeling, you know, guilty or proud of the things we do over the other. And we need to just like work together, and relationships are important. And, you know, we bought 60 kilos from him, and we've made some chocolate bars with him, and we've made chocolate with a bunch of different farmers in that region. And I should hopefully be going back within the next month or two, hopefully, to do another harvest with them. And we've got some special coffees on the way that'll hopefully be life-changing.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's cool that you're able to have those experiences and kind of see that firsthand, you
Yeah.
know, because it's like you can see the pictures, you can see the videos, but like to be there in the farms, in the nitty gritty of all this stuff, in the
Yeah.
forests. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? It's like you're almost like given like a taste of like how they live,
Mhm.
and it's cool to kind of like come away from it in the sense of like there's give and take. You know, it's like they live this way and like they don't have the same amenities that us, but at the same time, like they are able to live for a lot cheaper and like they can make this stuff work and like they make a good living for where they live, I
Yep.
guess,
Yep.
you know? And it's cool that like you were able to kind of come into it with like a mindset of like we're a team. And that's kind of what it sounds like, where it's just like even though you live your lifestyle, I live my lifestyle, like I'm helping you, you're helping me. This is a collaborative effort. Like you play your part, I play my part, and it's just like it's not like one or the other is better than the other because of like where you live or what you do.
Yeah.
It's like we help each other and we make each other better.
Yeah. That's perfect. I mean, we went to a bunch of different cacao farms as well. I got to pick cacao with, Jaime and his family. We went to Rodulio's farm. We went to a few other cacao and coffee farms. I got to go to a co-op, which is where they kind of take coffee in, they sort it, they export it. That's kind of the middleman
Okay.
a lot of times. That's called Kamsa, and that's in Marcala, which is like a little north of where I was.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, we've got chocolate coming from all over Honduras, from Wampasirpi, single origin farms where it's literally just one family growing cacao on their property. So we have a whole connection down there that now with Rodulio, the first farm we went to, his son, Abraham, he's like in his early 30s. He's kind of taken over the whole operation. We have a strawberry co-fermented coffee that we'll be doing with them next harvest.
Okay.
That was in the works this January. So, almost 10 months ago.
Damn.
And they got a contract down with a strawberry farmer. I'll be hopefully going down there to see the whole strawberry fermentation process, which is a coffee where they ferment the cherries with strawberries during the processing.
Wow.
And that strawberry flavor comes through. So it's the first time they've ever done one, because since we have a little bit of a relationship in this collaborative effort, he verbatim asked me, he's like, "What do you guys want to do?"
And that's what you said.
And I was like, we got to do some crazy
Fruit
shit. We got to,
fermentation.
yeah, we got to do some strawberry. Because everything is regional in a lot of Latin America. So I was like, what fruits can you get your hands on? Like a lot of.
Yeah.
And they threw out a couple, which it's very convenient that I'm allergic to strawberry. But we'll be doing a strawberry fermentation either way. So
Yeah, you'll be in there with a full mask.
Yeah. So we'll be doing that this year, which I'm very excited for. And there's a few cafes in town that sell his bars as well. The cacao with, or coffee with Abraham's name on it. So,
Nice.
I've got his WhatsApp. We chat. He's the homie. So.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
it's cool that you're able to like put him on, because I'm sure like in his country, like being able to like be a part of like an American company, like
It's
to this
huge.
extent is a big deal.
It's very big.
Yeah, because your money goes a lot further out there than their money does.
Yep.
So it's like you're really helping each other out, and it's really cool that like you can kind of get that value from other countries, being in a position of like an owner. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? To have that influence on them.
Yeah. I mean, it's really obvious. Like Lantern wouldn't exist without those people.
That's true.
We can't exist without those people.
That's true. Any
So-
specialty coffee place, because it's like this stuff is not made here. It's not
No.
well like, naturally. You know what I mean?
No, I mean it's not. It's not.
It's not
at
made
all.
here. Yeah.
You can get it in like some parts of Southern California, and that's it. And
That's
have
crazy.
fun paying for them.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't have to pay imports and all that stuff.
Labor laws.
Labor laws.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yep.
No, I mean it's crazy, man. It's cool though that like you're in this position to be like able to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
I'm super thankful. I mean,
yeah.
that trip was maybe 7 days, and I wrote some stupid, ridiculous, long Facebook post about it, and I don't even remember what I said, but I just remember knowing that like it made me feel confident in what I was doing, and
Yeah.
it didn't make me feel ashamed of being on this end of the supply chain.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's like you see it from different levels, and it's like you can kind of like from the seed, and at that point you're being exposed to like from the root, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's
literally.
literally, and I think that changes it, and it almost like, and I, it's funny. It's like we keep tying back to this, but it's like how you like go all in, like that's just further deepening how far you go in on what you love, and it's just like you want to do that. You want to know from the source, how does this work? And
Mhm.
it's like, and I think coffee has been like the biggest, I guess, example
Yep.
of that part of your personality.
Yep.
Whereas it's like going all in 100%, like you went in like 5,000% with
Yeah.
coffee so far, and you're still to this day, growing and
Yeah.
building and like, building Lantern into what it is today. Now you guys are roasting your own beans and
Yep.
you guys are selling your own stuff. And it's just like, it's crazy that like you were the reason why all this stuff happened. And it's like you were part of the what Lantern is today. And I think it's like it's so beautiful for you to be able to like turn your passions into like literally your business. And now it's just like you own this, and it's so cool that like this is now like this is a passion project that turned into a full-on career, like
Yeah.
long term.
Yeah. I still remember in 2017, maybe like mid 2017, we went skating. You were home for something.
Yeah.
And we went skating, and I picked you up, and I had a bunch of coffee I had roasted that morning in my car.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember going to Byron, and I had like all these Ziploc baggies of like 50-gram bags of coffee.
Yeah.
I don't know why I had them with me, but I remember showing you that for the first time.
Yeah, and like and I like I mean I can't specifically remember that time, but I can only imagine at the time I was just like, damn, like this is so different. Like to
Yeah.
me it was just like such a different thing.
Yeah.
But like already you were like so stoked about it. And like to the
Yeah.
point where you had multiple bags bring with you to the skate park because you were so stoked on it.
Yeah.
And you wanted to share that love of like that art
Yeah.
with your friends.
Yeah.
And I mean that's just like it's so beautiful that like I'm it's cool that you remember that, because it's like I don't remember that specific moment, but it's just like but that was early on in your days when you were like you were stoked on it, and it's like
Yeah.
you were always like you were stoked on what you were stoked on. And I think that's something that's like really important about like who you are. Like
Yeah.
you were never really influenced by what everyone else liked. And like, on that same note, like it's almost like you were turned off by what everyone else liked. And that's kind of like hipstery, but
Yeah.
it's just like but you never like went into it with like I'm too cool. You just like, that's for you. It's not for me.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think that's something that was like really important, even outside of like the creative stuff, just in
Yeah.
regular stuff. You were never a partier. You were never one to go out with people just to get fucked up. You know what I mean? Like as a kid. So like you always had like that level head, and you just did what you like to do, and you were always super independent. And I think that's something like a lot of kids at the age that you were doing those things were that opposite of like the yes men, the like the wanna be cool. They
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
they ended up burning themselves out to now, mid-20s, and like they don't even know what they want to do in their lives.
Yeah.
A lot of kids that we went to high school with that I see on social media and stuff that like they don't have it figured out, but it's because like they weren't figuring it out in those early days when we were figuring it out,
Yeah.
like what we love to
Trying
do,
stuff,
trying
and
stuff, and like
having fun. I mean, that's
finding your passion.
a lot of stuff I talk about is like when people I've heard this from a lot of people. Like there's numerous other people that tell me like whatever you're into, like you go all in. And it's like I try a lot of things, and if I don't enjoy it or I'm not good at it right away, it's not for me. Like
Yeah.
you can feel, and I mean, a lot of people can feel this too. Like when you try a new craft or a new task or a new hobby, if it's not vibing early on, usually it's not your thing, and that's
Yeah,
okay. And
for sure.
usually I just kick them to the curb early because I'm like, I'm not going to invest my time in this unless it's like something I really want to do,
Yeah.
or if it's in. I mean, talk like beer brewing. Like I've been brewing beer a couple years now. Still pretty new at it. Not super great, but where I'm at now from where I was at a year ago is like exponentially better. And like that's enough motivation to keep me like pushing on that.
Yeah, man, 100%. And there's like, and it's funny because like there's a point in these notes, and it's like I haven't really been looking at the notes because we've been talking through a lot of the things that like are that I know are on the notes that I don't even need to look at them because it's like, oh, I remember that was on the notes. Let's just keep going on that
Yeah.
on that note.
Right.
But it's just like that was one of the things where it's just kind of like the 100% all in mentality where it's like this is like a few different things, where like coffee, tea, bourbon,
Yeah.
craft cocktails,
Yeah.
and then stemming into like homebrew.
Yeah.
And it's just like all these things that like you have extensive knowledge about. And it's just like, it's funny because it's like you saw like the early like I love this, early on you saw that like I love this and I'm good. I'm kind of like, good at it. And like, even if you weren't like super good at it, you saw like I can get better at this. Like, oh, I'm going to get better this way.
Yep.
Like, I like this. I'm going to get better this way. And so it's just like all those different things that I just named. It's like you've kind of had your own phases, I guess,
Yeah.
where it's like you kind of went through these phases and like a lot of those things are still going today, like the home brewing, the tea stuff. I mean, not as much the tea stuff as much,
right.
but it's just like
Well,
yeah.
I'm lucky enough that they all are super similar.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
I have a great coffee foundation, and within coffee, when you're brewing or tasting or examining or producing, there is a like there's a who, what, when, where, and why for like everything. And so I learned it all for coffee. Like coffee, I just like learned it all as much as I could. I read every book, all the blogs on the internet, talked to every person I could, watch all the YouTube videos. And then when I turned 21, I got into cocktails, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, there has to be like a who, what, when, where, why for like cocktails. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you start to learn like each cocktail,
Yeah.
like, well, why do you shake that one? Why do you stir that one? Why do you use this ingredient? Why can't I use that ingredient? What's the difference? Okay,
Yeah.
you learn those things. Okay, I really like whiskey. Oh, I really like bourbon. What is bourbon versus whiskey versus rye versus scotch versus Irish? Like, what makes the difference? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And then I get into tea. Tea, who, what, when, where, why, tea. And then leads me to homebrewing my own beer for my wedding. And it's like, there has to be a who, what, when, where, why for brewing beer. And like, come to find out, like, after researching all these topics, like, they're all the same. Like
Yeah.
they all have like very similar things. I have a great foundation of understanding all these different topics. So it doesn't take me that long to catch on.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, and I guess it's like, they're all related in the sense they're all beverages.
Yeah.
So, what about beverages that gives you such a deep love for them?
Dude, this is crazy because I remember in probably 2002, so I
Okay.
would have been maybe 7 years old.
Yeah. Like second grade,
Second
eighth
grade.
grade, something like that.
Second or third grade. My favorite thing to do, so at my dad's house, he lived over in Wyoming and we lived near a speedway,
Okay.
is we would scrounge together quarters. Each one of us would have like $1.50, $2 to spend. And we would ride our bikes to the speedway. And my siblings would just get like a Gatorade or whatever,
Right.
whatever, or a slushie. And I would be the last one, always, like
Oh.
always. I would be standing there at the drink section, just like all the, the doors you can open, just
Yeah.
like
The coolers.
in the coolers, just like, what do I get? Like, I only get one chance at this.
Right. You had $1.50. You had
Right.
one drink.
Right. I could get one drink. And I just had the toughest time deciding. And ever since I was a kid, drinks have always been like my favorite part of a meal. They've been my favorite like thing of the day. If I get a special drink, that's my thing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you know me, like I don't drink still water. Like I only drink sparkling waters. Like
Yeah.
all the different brands that contain different minerals. Like I could talk about waters. Like a drink is something that's so simple. It could be
Right.
a water. It could be a sparkling water. So water with carbon dioxide in it. And like I'm all in, dude. I love that shit. Like
Yeah.
coffee, tea. Like they're all such simple things that are usually 99% water. They just have this little bit of flavor that blows my mind, and it keeps me interested. And it's such a simple pleasure, and it's a simple pleasure that we're lucky enough in the U.S. to have. You know, like being to other countries, Honduras, whatever, like they don't have those things a lot of the times readily available like we do. And it is such a simple thing that I think a lot of us take for granted, and I just
Yeah.
love, partaking.
Yeah, it's cool that it stemmed from like a kid because like I guess I didn't think about it like that. You know, like when you were like given money,
Mhm.
you have to pick what
Yeah.
you want to spend your money
Yeah,
on.
you never been to like the gas station. Your parents say, "Oh, pick a drink out."
Exactly.
It's like you're not grabbing the first thing you see. You're gonna look a little bit. You wanna make sure you're getting something that you're really happy with.
For sure. And I can totally like see you at the thing like the same way like you like stand in front of like a beer cooler
Yeah.
now and be like, which one do I want?
Yeah,
There's so many options.
there's so many different options and styles and I mean, it's like, what time of day is
Occasion,
it? How
yeah.
hot is it outside? How cool is it outside? What am I gonna be eating?
Yeah.
Am I drinking with friends? Am I drinking am I sampling some beers by myself? Is this for tasting? Is this for drinking? Because those are different things.
Right.
And yeah, each one has a time and place.
Dude, I love that so much. It's like you can tell like your love for beverages stems back like so long, and it's like it and it's like with all of your endeavors they kind of have that like same vein of just like beverages.
Right.
What was that?
What?
What just changed?
It like flicked off, flicked back on. Oh, it's dying.
Is it on a battery right now?
Yeah, but I think the battery's drawing more than what it can. Yeah, welcome to a $90 light I bought 10 years ago.
Oh, that's gonna change the lighting a little bit.
Turn the battery power down a
Okay.
little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna go pee.
Hey, Martians, real quick. I appreciate you taking the time to listen or watch wherever you are in the world. Over the last few months, the Martian family has grown so much. I could not be more thankful for all of my guests and every single one of you who continue to tune in every single week. Subscribers, ratings, likes, and comments all help us grow here on Mars. And it would mean the world. If you haven't already, please go to onmarspod.com/subscribe to subscribe on YouTube. Like and leave a comment, rate us on Spotify. All this good stuff helps keep the engine running to inspire Martians all over the world. P.S. Follow us on Instagram @onmarspod. Okay, let's get back to it. So the light was kind of flickering out on us a little bit. I don't know if you guys saw that on the video, so we had to kind of do a little cut.
Yep.
Grab another beer from our sponsors at Founders Brewing Company, Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah, it's definitely sponsored. Yes.
Yes.
We did not buy these.
We did
before
not
this.
buy these. They
Yes.
gave it to us. But usually I don't drink on the pod. But because we are in Grand Rapids, I had to make a special occasion exception because Founders is a Grand Rapids based brewing company, and we are Beer City, USA.
Yeah, we were named Beer City again this year.
We were?
Again.
Look at that.
Yep.
If you guys don't know this already, I was born and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Grandville. And by the time I moved out, I wasn't 21. So it was just like,
Damn.
I wasn't able to experience the Beer City to its full potential because I never really lived here
Yeah.
while I was of age.
Yeah.
So every time I came back after I was of age, I would always drink Founders and Bells every time. And it's like Rubeus was
Yeah.
like my go-to every time. So, yeah, when John was like, because we were at Founders before this, he said, yo, we should get a 6-pack for the show. And I said, you know what? Let's do it. So we are drinking an all-day IPA. Shout out our boys.
This
at
is actually
Founders.
the chill day.
Oh, so this is the less ABV, yeah?
No. So this is all the IPA chill. So
Okay.
this is a cold IPA. So it's fermented with ale yeast, but fermented cold.
Okay.
And then they clear it up in lager. That's why it has like a. If you look through it, you can kind of see that
It's
it's
a little
like
bit more
clear.
transparent.
Yeah, there's no particulate.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a cleaner, crisper, all the IPA.
Amazing.
Yep.
Cheers, brother.
Yes. Cheers.
Man, this is great. I love being able to do this with you, man. I'll be honest, because it's like everyone that I've had on the pod so far are people that I've met after I was 20 years old.
Yep.
So I was like an adult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to be able to like have someone on that like I've known since I was an actual child,
Yeah.
is like, is kind of crazy. And it's like it's funny because this will be the longest episode by far, and it's okay because it's like
We have a lot to talk
we
about.
have a lot to talk about, dude. And it's like it's so cool though because I was telling you this off air before we were doing this and getting even to Founders, where it's just like we have such a history, whereas I was able to live through your story.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole episode is about, your story. So it's like to be able to be on my side and be your friend, it's cool, but like to hear what you were actually going through during those moments, I feel like is it's just like it brings everything full circle.
Yeah.
No, I'm just super thankful to have this conversation.
Thank you.
Of course, man. So we left off on beverages.
Yep.
And we were talking about, going to the gas station and being selective of like what you want.
Yeah, dude.
And that kind of like played into like who you ended up being as an adult, where it's just like, beverages, just that's your thing.
Yep.
Kind of going back to because we briefly talked about like, you went into tea, homebrew,
Yep.
craft cocktails, bourbon, all these things.
Yep.
So these are all different beverages. So I guess it's kind of like to talk about like a couple of them in a little bit deeper context. I guess that's like the direction I want to go.
Yeah.
So like to start off with like coffee with like Latte Art and like just like pour over and all these different things that like come with specialty coffee.
Yeah.
First thing, pour over.
Yeah.
Something we kind of mentioned when you were talking about Chemex. Obviously you don't use Chemex anymore.
No. Almost never.
Right. It's funny because you like when you first started, you're like, this is amazing. And then you realize like there's so many better ways to do it.
Yeah.
But pour over as
Yep.
a whole,
Yep.
Why? Why pour over?
Ease of use. It's easy. You can make 1 cup and be done. There's no automatic, it doesn't take up a ton of counter space. You can tuck it away. In its simplest form, you can make 1 cup of coffee and be done.
Yeah.
And it's in a sense, it's 3 minutes, 4 minutes for your cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And I'll just preface this right at the start. No one brew method is better nor worse than the other. So it's all about ease of use, convenience, and what you have available to you.
And brew method, pour over,
AeroPress, immersion, air percolation, mocha pot, espresso, automatic drip.
because to the layman people, to the people that don't know specialty coffee,
Yep.
or are now hearing about pour overs for the very first time.
Yep.
There are other ways to brew coffee other than just throwing beans in a Mr. Coffee grind or coffee maker
Yep.
and pressing go.
Yep.
So all these different methods that you mentioned of brewing coffee, they all have their different
Strengths and
nuances,
weaknesses.
I guess.
Yeah.
Because it's even like it's hard to even call them like strengths and weaknesses, because to some it might be strengths, but to some it might be weaknesses.
Yep.
So it's almost like they have like their own like nuances in a way where it's like, if you like this, this is why you would use this.
There are certain things that are yes subjective, but there are certain things that are not.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of scientifically proven that coffee tastes best between X amount of total dissolved solids. So when you brew a cup of coffee, it's 98.x% water.
Okay.
So however much material is left in that cup, it's scientifically proven that coffee tastes good in a certain range.
Right.
Whereas, yes, you can say subjectively you like it at the higher end or the lower end, but it is proven that to be in that range, it is good. Certain brew methods get you into that range easier than others. Again, like we were talking earlier, it's not really about what gear you have. It's about how you know how to use it.
Yeah.
At home, I have
Everything.
$20,000 worth of equipment at home, which to some of you guys might be just absolutely ridiculous.
This is an owner of a coffee shop, guys.
It's really good.
You have to think about it like that.
It's a really cool business expense for me to be able to have all those things.
It's a cool business expense.
Yeah, I have a really nice car value worth of coffee equipment at my house.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Jesus.
each one provides a important role in testing and using. That being said, I have brewed coffee on just my plain auto drip machine that, to some of you might be expensive. It was $180, which it was sent to me as a gift from a company. But for a long time, that's all I used. I just used that, and it has 2 buttons on it, and I would turn it on and I would hit the brew button and call it a day. But I was grinding it with a good grinder. I was using good water. So again, it wasn't really like the machine itself. It was just, I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of like with these different brew methods. Yes, there are obvious ways to do it the right way, but it's kind of like you have to find like your techniques within these things, because it's like it's not necessarily going to be exact same every time. Like
Correct.
the grind, like the amount of grind. I guess how would you say it? Like the
particle
fine
size.
Particle size.
Yep.
So like the particle size, fine versus coarse.
Yep.
So that changes the flavor.
A ton.
The water completely changes the flavor.
Yep.
Distilled versus mineral versus purified versus reverse osmosis.
Yep.
Versus what's our boys?
Third wave water.
Third Wave Water.
Yeah.
Shout out our boys at Third Wave Water.
Yeah.
Get that sponsor. No, but that's the water you were using. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. At home for the longest time, I was using Third Wave water. I backed them on Kickstarter in 2015, maybe. I was like their 10th Kickstarter back.
Amazing.
I was very early. They used to come in these plastic like pill bottles.
Really?
Way back in the day, yeah. And
did they send you some as like being like a early backer?
Yeah. I backed them because it was so cheap. I think it was like $5 to back them.
Oh.
And I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll back that.
Yeah.
And it came in this massive bag. It was like this big. And it had like 5 like little capsules in it. That each one made a gallon of Third Wave water. And I remember getting it and just being like, oh, this is bullshit. Like these guys, come on. Like this is the biggest gimmick I've ever paid $5 to be a part of. And so I did a blind taste test. It was like Christmas Day. I like woke up to this blind taste test Christmas Day, whatever year that was. And I remember just being like, oh, fuck. This
Big
is
difference.
Crazy.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Like this is what people talk about.
Yeah.
And I reached out to them, and I'm drawing a blank on the owner's name. I think his name is Taylor. I had a phone call with him a couple of years later, and that dude's a fucking genius. Like he's so smart. Like he knows the science and chemistry of it so well. And yeah, those dudes went on those dudes went on Shark Tank, and they got
really?
Yeah, they got a back from Barbara.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and they're crushing it. They're a huge part of the industry. Like
Yeah.
They're incredible.
Yeah, I mean, because you put me on to third wave water.
Yeah, dude, I've put so many people onto third wave water.
Yes,
I might as
man.
well start making commission.
Dude, sponsor this man. Third wave, damn. But it's just that's what plays into like using these apparatuses, I guess you could call them.
Yeah.
Like these different brew methods. That is a big part of it. You know, like the water you're using, the grind particle size. So it's just like it's not the gear, it's the mouth. Oh, pause. I'm just saying it's like that where it's just like it's not like the stuff that you have, it's how you use it.
Yeah, and so when I was first getting into coffee, and I think a lot of new coffee people tend to do this, is they see different drippers. So you have something like you have the Kalita, which is a flat bottom. You have the V60, which is a cone, and then those are like kind of the two mainstays.
Yeah.
You should have one of each. But then outside of those, you have the flower dripper, which is a cone, so it looks just like the V60, but a little different. And then on the flat bottom side, you have the Stag Junior, or sorry, not Stag Junior. You have the Stag Brewer. Stag Junior is a whiskey. You have the Stag Brewer, which is very similar, but a little different. And then it kind of gets wider and wider. You've got the Origami, you've got the Oreo, you've got the April, you've got the Torch Mountain. You've got all these drippers that do the same function.
These are all pour over.
Yes, they're all considered a pour over, but they take different filters or different sized filters, or their openings on the bottom are slightly different. So their drainage is different, or flow.
Right.
Their flow is different.
Yep.
So again, not one of these is better nor worse than the others, but it's, do you know how to use it in a way that will maximize its efficiency?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like you have to try these different methods to be able to find what works best for you.
Yeah.
And also the coffee you're brewing.
Right. So I at home, I've got 15, 20 different drippers. Here at the shop, we have a basket we keep under the counter that has 10 or 15 different ones. And we use them just for playing around and training. And it's good to like train my staff on, here's why this dripper is better or worse for us, and here's why.
Yeah.
Because there has to be a why. Why is this dripper better?
Right.
Because of this.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. So we just like to experiment with different coffees and different drippers and different filters and whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I guess that's like leads me to a question of like for lanterns specifically. For anyone that's into this kind of information, what is the normal drippers and pour over type of setups that you guys are using? It looks like some V60s up there.
Close. So a couple of years ago, I was in talks with a couple of different companies on buying filters wholesale.
Okay.
Because at the time, so we were using the Kalita 185 stainless steel drippers, and
flat bottom.
I kept running into issues where their filters would be sold out.
Okay.
And I would have to drive around to local cafes here and buy up packs of their filters.
Oof.
So I came to this realization. I was like, fuck this. Like,
can't do that.
I can't be doing this. I need to find someone I can buy filters wholesale from.
Yeah.
That has a minimum order quantity that isn't, like 100,000.
So, Jesus, what is this, Alibaba? What the?
Well, okay. So hold that thought. So I at the time, an acquaintance of mine, Lance Hedrick, who's the wholesale director for Onyx, he had just competed in, the World Brewers Cup champion with a dripper called the Flower Dripper, and it was shaped kind of like a V60. And he ended up, I think he won. I don't know if he won, but he placed really high. And I respect him a lot. He's an awesome content creator as well. He's on YouTube. He makes incredible coffee videos. But, he had been using the Flower Dripper, and I'm like, okay, if this dude uses it, like they're, whatever,
must be something.
It's got to be good, something to it. So I buy one online and I get it in, and I'm using V60 filters on it. I'm like, yeah, this is fine. It's a dripper. It does what all the other of them do.
Right.
And so I reach out to the company that makes the flower dripper, and it's a company called Cafec, and they have a representative in LA. And so she reaches out to me and she's like, yeah, like, what are you looking to buy? Here's our wholesale list. And I see they have you can buy filters wholesale. So at the time I order one pack of every filter because I want to try them all out. And I'm like, which one allows me to grind the finest with the fastest drainage? Because that means I'm getting the most, extraction and efficiency out of my coffee.
Right.
So it leads me down. I do this big like spreadsheet, and I'm like logging all this data, and it leads me to this the Cafec. The hemp ones are the best ones for us, and like the roast level we were doing at the time, and
Yeah.
so I ended up buying 3 cases of filters, which a case of filters is a pack of 100 times 100. So
It's like 1,000,
I was
3,000.
so there's 10,000 filters per case. So I bought 30,000 filters. So to put this in perspective, we do maybe 10 pour-overs a day. So that was like 3 years ago.
That's
So-
like fucking a lot of years worth of pour overs, brother.
Yeah, so I still have like almost 2 cases left.
Like 20,000 fucking
Yeah.
filters left.
So to put that into
But
context,
so these are hemp filters.
yeah. So
Yeah,
they're biodegradable, compostable, like they're great filters, and this all comes full
for
circle
the flower dripper.
for the flower dripper, which they can also be V60, they can be origami, they can be any
Right.
cone shape, the Kono.
Right.
They're adaptable to like a bunch of different brewers.
Okay.
But years later, this awesome person in our industry, Jonathan Gagne, he is an astrophysicist that during COVID, he got extremely bored and conducted hundreds of physics-based tests on coffee.
Okay.
And he wrote a book called The Physics of Filter Coffee. And in that book, he like physics tests coffee filters, and he tests how early they get clogged up and what their like clog capacity is. And
Jeez.
then he did like kind of like a TLDR, what's the best filter, and he rated the hemp ones that I ended up choosing as the best one. So this book came out way
Double
later,
down.
but like reading that, I was like, oh God, thank God,
It's
I did it right. But
It's
so
like looking at this 2,000
yeah,
box.
yeah, I spent like thousands of dollars, and then 2 years later, it like reassured as like a good purchase.
While you still have like 1 or 2/3 of like what you bought like 2 years
Yeah.
ago.
So yeah, so it was reassured as like a good purchase, thank God. But yeah, like looking back, like it's all, flavor based. You do these little tests here and there with certain ones, and God,
It's
like
late out here,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
Sorry.
you kind of get like, you can feel different flavors. You can get these like subtleties that sometimes new people will get, but they can't really explain. They're like, I like this one better, but I don't know why. You have like those certain things, but like these filters just like crushed it for us. So
Yeah. It's cool that you were able to like to that level,
Yeah.
like dial it in.
Yeah.
And it's just like that's the level of dedication where it's just like I want to get things down to like the basic like molecular level. Just
Yeah.
like how far can we really dial this in?
dude,
I
that
guess
book,
that's what it is.
I mean, shout out Jonathan Gagne. Like any article he does, any official test he does is fucking insane.
Yeah.
That book it's gold. I mean, you flip through it and half of it is just beyond me. Like I don't even get it. I have to read like the summary of each test because I see graphs of data and it makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for so long. But since he
Yeah.
has an astrophysics background,
That's
he just
what he understands.
he understands things on a different level that no one in our industry gets.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's doing these like seminars and panels at events that have like these big crowds, and you see him talking, and he talks about these like properties and ideas, and you'll just see like the crowd, and they're just like they just have like no idea what he's talking about. Because again, he has a just a different understanding of the process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, man. I mean, that's like someone that really deep dove into it. You know what I mean? It's
Dude.
like to another level where it's like surpasses people's like general understanding. Where it's like they have to like have like a certain level of understanding to even know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like, that's like,
You have to be in this industry for a long time to even
Yeah.
get an
The
idea of what he's
reason-
talking
yeah.
about.
exactly.
And then yeah, to understand it on like a science level, you got to be a scientist to get it. But,
Yeah, exactly.
but yeah,
Just like goes over like the Starbucks barista's heads completely.
Right
dude.
over my head.
Yeah,
I won't even
dude.
lie.
Hey, dude, but it's like now you can like understand why, and you can understand like like what he was doing, why he was doing it, and like how he was doing that stuff. And it's like that's kind of what you were saying before, where it's like who, what, where we're at. You know, it's like all the questions.
There's
Yeah.
Yep. There's a who, what, when, where, and why for everything. And
Yeah.
and science is a lot of extraction in the theory of how we extract those compounds. There's a reason for all of that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of theories out there, and there's a lot of ideas out there, but it takes someone like him to sit down. It was during COVID, so no one was doing
Classic.
anything. He did all these experiments were like in his apartment during COVID.
Ah,
And he tracked all this data, and he's got it all graphed and in a spreadsheet or whatever it may be, and he covers everything
yeah.
everything you can think of,
And he shares it with the world.
and he wrote a book on it, and it's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
So-
dude. I love that. Where it's just like, and I'm sure even with him, there was like a time where he's just like, will people care? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's just like, then he got to probably a point where he's just like, you know what? I care.
Yeah.
So I know if I care, other people will.
Well, because I remember reading one blog individually that meant an important amount to me, and it was so for each dripper type, what material had the best rapid heat retention.
Okay.
So like you've got ceramic, you've got stainless steel, you've got plastic, you've got dual walled stainless steel, you've got whatever it may be. So like that was a big choice when we switched to the flower drippers from the stainless steel. Metal will absorb more heat. It will take more heat away from your water. So when you're doing, you're brewing coffee.
Yeah.
You want to maintain a steady temperature.
Yeah.
So if you have a material that takes a lot of temperature away, you don't necessarily want to use that. So in the early days, people were like, oh, you use ceramic because ceramic holds the most heat, which is true. Ceramic holds a shit ton of heat. But if it's cold, if it's room temp and you pour water on it, it takes a lot of heat to warm it up.
Right.
That wasn't really thought about back in the day. So back in the day, everyone was using ceramic. When that kind of discovery came out of like, oh, ceramic takes a lot of heat away, everyone switched to plastic because plastic takes a little bit of heat to heat up, and it retains its heat just enough that as long as you keep adding heat to it, it will keep retaining its heat. But that wasn't something that was thought about till like past couple of years.
Wow.
So it's like that
Holy
thought that's
shit.
like, holy shit, like that makes total sense. Why did no one think about that before?
This is so simple.
Dual wall, same idea. Dual
But-
wall retains heat insane,
Yeah.
but it takes a lot of heat to get it to that point.
Yeah.
So there's one brewer, it's the Stag, the
Okay.
made by Fellow, that for a lot of times people said, oh, it's the best brewer in the market, blah, blah, blah. But he did the heat retention test where he logged all the heat data. And the Stag is the outlier because it goes cold immediately, but it holds heat the best. But it takes the most amount of heat out of your brew. So you have to preheat it with, like half a gallon of water to get it up to temp. And it's like, who's doing that?
Yeah. It's a waste.
Yeah.
Dude, holy shit. It's crazy because I remember there was a time when because you got me into brewing, and you got me into pour overs when I moved back here for a second.
Yeah.
You know what? It was before that. It was in 2019 or 2020. I remember we were having conversations when I had come back here to visit one time, and it was probably around that time when we went to Byron. When you were telling me that you had like those like roasted bags, and like when you started telling me about craft coffee, it started becoming a thing in my head.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't until probably like 2019 or 2020 that I actually like started like let me try to dabble in this.
Yeah.
Because you were in it by that point. You were like deep in it.
Deep, dude.
So it was just like when I would hang out with you, it was like the amount of knowledge that I was getting from you was like immense.
Right.
So it really like turned me on. And I remember I was doing it and now that I think about it, I wasn't doing pour over. I was doing French press,
Yes.
and that was my first endeavor into like other than like regular Mr. Coffee style brewing,
Yeah.
because I started using the French press, and then I asked you about that, like how should I use a French press, and kind of like whatever, and then that's when the conversation started about the other stuff later on. Whereas it's like I didn't get into pour over until probably this past year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah. I remember when you bought
The
your
V60.
first setup. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
was so excited.
Yeah.
I was so excited because I was like, John, I did it. Like I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So, but like I at one point I asked, or I told you, I was like, yeah, I got this. Now all I got to do is get the ceramic V60 thing.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you know what? I actually prefer the plastic one,
Yeah.
which at the time I was like, weird, because obviously ceramic is more expensive, plastic is cheaper.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why would you like the cheaper one?
Yeah.
But like when you say it like that, like I guess at the time it wasn't broken down like that, because it was more so like surface level, like I just prefer this over that. Like
Yep.
you didn't say why necessarily.
Right.
But like when you break it down like that totally changes why you would use one or the other, because the temperature is one of the most important factors when it comes to consistency in coffee.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that like you hear it for the first time and you're like, oh yeah, duh. Like duh.
Right.
That makes total sense.
Exactly.
But I just didn't think about it like that.
And that's all it was. Where it's like I thought about it like, oh, heavy, like just more like just because it's more expensive, it's more quality.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that's
Yeah.
not necessarily the case
Nah.
in this circumstance.
Yeah. And that's the thing for all things of coffee. I mean, just like drip filter coffee. Again, back to the premise of the whole conversation. Like it's not what equipment you have. It's how do you know how to use it?
Yeah.
You don't need a $200 gooseneck kettle to make good coffee. Like
yeah.
like you can make great coffee. I mean, like your grinder definitely like matters
Yeah.
in a sense. You don't need a $3,000 grinder, but a $200 grinder is sufficient enough.
Worth it.
A $10 dripper, you can brew right into your mug. If you've got a little gooseneck kettle that you heat up the water on your stove, that costs you $15, whatever. Those can be used to achieve great results. Yes, there are tools that make it easier on you. There are tools that allow you to experiment with different things. I have one of everything. But you don't need those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember one time you were telling me like and this was so wild to me, because it was almost like where I was like, really? Because you said one time like you can make really good coffee with a Mr. Coffee style brewer. It's all about the ratio.
Yeah.
And it's like about your grind size.
Yep.
And it's about your water type.
Yep.
And it's like if you use that type of brewer, you can still achieve great results.
Yep.
You just have to, make sure the other variables are in check.
Yeah. There's people that have done kind of some tests on, like the Mr. Coffee is a great example. It has very bad like water distribution.
Yeah.
And its water temperature is like a little low, so it doesn't extract as well as it should. So like there's people that just say like you brew, and after like 10 seconds of brewing, you open up the like brewer part and you just like stir the grounds, because agitation will help extract more.
Yeah.
So you're just like cheating a little bit there.
Yeah.
And that's like again, if you know that, you know how to like achieve good results. You use good water, good coffee, good grind. You're lacking on temperature and agitation, but you can do that by hand. And like you're just getting those same results. That's why for a while, I mean, the OXO dripper I use, shout out OXO, like they've been a great brand I've worked with many, many times. They've sent me like literally every single coffee product they've ever put out, I have tried. And their newest like single cup brewer that I've been using for 3 or 4 years is insane.
Yeah.
Like you measure out good coffee, good water, right ratio. It has 2 buttons, boom, boom. You have cafe quality coffee at home.
Yeah, and it's just because you know how to use it.
You know how to you got to learn
Yeah.
how to use it. Got to do a little research, little measuring. If you got a question, just DM me. Like, I get DMs from people all the time. I have no issue helping people get good coffee at home. It's really not that hard. I started a whole separate club
Yes.
that's all a part of that. Like,
Shout
that's
out GR Coffee Club.
Grand Rapids Coffee Club.
Grand
Like,
Rapids Coffee Club.
it is, that's our whole mission, is to help people brew good coffee at home. We meet here once a month. It's been a very rewarding club. We get people from all experience levels, knowledge levels, industries, like people that work in coffee, don't work in coffee, just want to make good coffee at home. Like, just reach out. I'll gladly help you.
Yes. Yeah, this is the real John Coffee.
At the real John Coffee.
At the real John Coffee. Handle right here. Dude, it's so cool that like you are like an expert. It's kind of weird to like say that now, but like you're a straight up expert in the field, and it's just like you're still so young, kind of. You know what I mean? You're like less than 30,
Yeah.
which I consider very young. And I think that's like that says a lot about like the potential and the amount that you still have to grow in the field and
Yeah.
the industry.
Yeah.
To be, an owner of a coffee shop that is successful, and like to be not only like to be a part of like the successful coffee shop, but at the same time be like a reason why it's so successful. And I think that's the reason why you're a co-owner. You know what I mean? Like, you would not be in this position unless you had that within you to like want to build this up, want to innovate, to break new ground with this company. And like the owners would not give you that opportunity, even though it took a long time for that to really take hold and like really come to fruition, years of you working here.
Yeah.
They knew that you were the guy to like take this to the next level.
Yeah. So I started here in 2016. I left like mid 2018 to go work a corporate job. That ended up not being for me. And then I helped open a different cafe in early 2019. And then I got a call from my now business partner in late summer 2019. And it basically went like, hey, we want you to come back and run the shop, and there'll be opportunity for equity for you down the road, which we can discuss if you're open to it.
Wow.
So that was October 4th, which is next Saturday, is my 5-year anniversary of coming back to run this place, right? 2019.
4
4-year anniversary, 5-year, whatever. It's an anniversary of me coming back here 4 years to run this place. Which right away we had been talking about equity right away, kind of in that October, November, December. Which fast forward to March 2020, we closed for 3 months. So in 2020 we were in the hole a lot of money, which took about until winter time 2021 to actually be positive, which was a great time for me to flex my muscles, to figure out like, can I really do this? Because my now business partner, he had kind of taken a backseat role, and he just said, look, I know you can do it. If you got any questions, call me.
Yeah.
So I was given the keys to the city basically, and he said, just go for it. Figure out what you can do. I was given a budget for certain things that I wanted to do, and here we are, almost 2024, and I mean, profit margins themselves are great. We make our own oat milk, which is a huge project of mine. It's been 1 year since we've been making our own oat milk, which to most people sounds like such a simple thing, but that has been an on and off project of mine for like literally 6 years. And as far as I'm concerned, we're the only small batch oat milk company in the world.
Wow.
So that's been a huge project. We launched roasting this year. We'll be opening our roastery in January, which will probably be shortly followed by an online shop.
Huge.
We've done merch this year, which is something we hadn't done in about 10 years. Stuff like that. I mean, I was just given the opportunity to do things, something I'd always wanted to do, and I was in a position to do them. And I found people around me that can help me execute them, whether it's designing art for merch or, getting connected with people to do XYZ, importing or roasting or packaging or labeling or whatever it may be. I've gotten to do things I never really thought I would be doing at this point.
Yeah. I mean, and you were given that, like, the reins in that sense, where it's just like this guy at a time where it almost seemed like, hey, this shit's going down the tubes.
Yeah.
Like, do whatever. You know what I mean? Where it almost felt like, hey, you can't do worse than what we're doing now. So fucking have at it. You know what I mean? And you took that opportunity with like a lot of like pride. And
Yeah.
you didn't take it lightly. And that's something where it's like you took that opportunity and started utilizing your skills as a person and as like a friend of people who are connected in certain things, and just like, because you're really good at connecting with people. You're easy to get along with. You're a people person. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's like that's why your networking ability is very very strong. So it's just like taking that skill that you already had and then incorporating like the business that you're now a part of directly. It's just like I feel like that's almost like a best case scenario where it's just like, how far can I take this? And you
Yeah.
just really started going in where it's just like, well, let me plug this to this, let me plug, and it was like everything came back to Lantern, like
Yeah.
all your personal connections and like all the people that you like already knew or like went out to meet because of this. It was
Yeah.
just like then utilizing your skills to be able to like connect with them on a different level to bring Lantern to another level. That's like, yeah, that shows a lot.
Yeah. The whole like me trying very hard at XYZ thing. The first person that ever said that to me was a old coworker. And when I took this place over, when I started managing it, I remember having like drinks with him, and he told me, if there's any person that can save Lantern, it's going to be you.
Wow.
And it's going to take a lot of effort, but I think you can do it. And that was right after I started here in October of 2019.
Wow.
And so fast forward to when we reopened in July of 2020. So we closed for April, May, and June, which was a great 3-month vacation after I had been working 3 jobs, 2017, 18, and 19. So 2020, I lost all income altogether. So I got 3 months of just doing nothing. And it was exactly what I needed to like reset, So come back to July, and I remember just posting up with my laptop upstairs, like watching skate videos, because we would see 10 to 20 customers a day.
Wow.
So right now we're doing like 190 transactions a day.
Yeah, it's like
So,
10% of what you guys are doing now,
or less. Yeah.
or less.
So my thought back then, because we had no indoor seating, was how do I get these people to come back
Yeah.
tomorrow?
Right.
And it was the only thing is, how do I make them feel special? And it's how do I treat them? Like, I can't give them things. I can't give away product. We're already losing money. I was working part-time, and I took a massive salary cut. I went back to like our hourly base pay, which is way less than what we pay now. And so I was just trying to keep the business alive, and like, how do I keep these people to come back tomorrow? And so every person, I'd be like, what's your name? Oh, cool. Great. Like, oh, what are you doing today? Or where do you work? Or do you have kids? What sports are you into? I know just about enough about every sport to carry on a conversation with someone, purely because if they're wearing a jersey or they're wearing a hat of a certain sports team. I want to know what those are so I can talk to them about it, because they're going to feel important. They're going to feel special. They're going to come back. And that's how you foster community. That's how you become friends. I mean, some of my best friends I have around me right now are people that I've met as customers here that started out as, how do I get them to come back tomorrow? And now I'm like eating dinner at their house on a Friday night for like gatherings and stuff like that.
You're just like a good person.
I like to think of it as just community. Like
Yeah.
you think about maybe 100 years ago, before chains were a thing,
Yeah.
right? You just had small businesses. There
Right.
only was small businesses. So it's like, if your friend owns if your friend's owned a tire shop for cars, like you're going to go to your friend's tire shop no matter what, because there's no chains. There's no extra convenience that someone offers. There's no extra deals that someone offers because they're a, multi-billion-dollar corporation. Like that didn't exist back then.
Right.
So I don't necessarily feel guilty about like treating a friend special for them to come back. It's like, that's community. They're going to support me because I'm their friend, and I'm going to treat them like a friend, which you treat friends special.
Yeah.
So when you walk through our doors, like we're gonna treat you as an individual. We're gonna recognize you. You're gonna feel a little different than what you would feel if you went to a chain or a different cafe.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is how you create like long-term clients.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I guess it's like clients, but like customers in your sense.
Yeah.
It's just like long-term customers that are regulars. It's like they're regulars at a coffee shop. It's like that's like
It's your community.
it's like I feel like even with like a coffee shop, like yes, people come in for coffee on a regular basis, but it's just like a lot of times it's just like, let me just get my coffee. Like let me just get my coffee and then go.
And
But like
again,
here, it's probably a lot different.
no, I mean, we get those people in every situation you can adapt to.
Yeah.
If you know this dude comes in every time and he's like, just give me my coffee. Oh, you see him walking up, grab it ahead of time.
Yeah.
That makes him feel special.
Yeah. Wow.
Every situation, you can adapt to any situation.
Right. So you can still make these people feel special. You don't have to necessarily take up so much of their time if that's not what they want.
Right.
But if they need that,
Right.
give it to them.
Yep.
I'm thank you for doing this, dude. This is great. And if anyone's still listening to this, I love you. So latte art, just real quick. Just like I just want to talk about it because latte art is sick, dude. Latte art is beautiful.
Yep.
There's a lot of competitions around the world.
Yep.
Did you start latte art like right when you started here?
No.
Okay.
I bought like a steaming pitcher online when I worked at Starbucks, and I would bring one there. Cause
To practice?
yeah, so their like steam wands are different there. And they actually use these they're like a 40-ounce pitcher. There's like massive things, dude. They're insane. Which they're fun to pour out of. Like as a coffee professional now, like the latte art pitchers or the steaming pitchers that Starbucks uses are fun to pour from because they're massive. And you can do like intricate things with them if you know what you're doing. But when you work there, you don't learn shit. You don't know what you're doing. But I used to bring a pitcher there and practice, and I never really did anything until I started here. Then like when I started here, I used to have like my coworkers steam for me, and then like I would practice pouring at the end of my shift
Okay.
on like my drink I would take home. And I have pictures from 2016 of like my latte art back then.
Latte?
Yeah, it's so bad. But it's funny because you can see when I like start to get it. Like you see like from like one shift to another shift, the quality is just like boom, like it just explodes because like it just like clicks in your brain.
Damn.
And like I'm not like I've won some throwdowns, which throwdowns are cool and like they're a fun way for like community to get together and have fun, but they're not like a good example of your skill. The real ones are like the real competitions in like Chicago and New York that people like, apply for like months in advance. And those are like kind of the real deal ones. So I'm fine at latte art. I'm not good. I'm not bad, but I'm fine.
So talking about throwdowns and competitions, how many throwdowns have you won?
I have won 4 or 5, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the throwdown is basically like a competition within a local community.
Yep.
So it's a little bit limited because it's obviously only judged based off of the people that apply within your region.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are competitions like John was saying, New York, Chicago, whatever these places are, these hub cities, I guess is the best way to put it.
So it's not really the cities. I was using them more of an example. They'll do like a coffee fest every year,
Okay.
which is in a different city every year.
Okay.
At the SCA Expo, which is in a different city every year. But usually they're in massive cities. But at those events, they'll do like one Latte Art throwdown that's
official.
It's like a 64-person bracket. It's a 8-hour thing.
Good luck.
But like the throwdowns we do are like it's called TNTs, it's Thursday night throwdowns, and it's a 2-hour thing. It's 16 people. It's quick. Buy-ins $5. Winner takes all. It's just like a fun way to get together, pour some latte art, pour dicks and shit like that, which I've seen before. But yeah, I've won. There was like one in Kalamazoo I won. I've won a couple up here. I go into them purely like expecting to lose.
Yeah.
And honestly, the ones that I usually expect to lose are the ones that I win. And then the ones where I like see the competition, I'm like, oh, this is just gonna be easy. I usually lose pretty early. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. That's funny. You like judge a book by its cover. It's
Yeah,
like
for
these
sure.
guys look like squares.
And it's funny because like I'll be I'll pour against someone that works at like a notorious cafe in the first round, and I'll beat them, and then they'll leave. Like they'll leave the competition because they're like, I don't want to, I want to be here.
Yeah, I don't want to be here.
And I'm like, oh, what a shitty sport, like just leaving right away.
Then you do the same.
And then the next like competition I go to, I'll lose in the first round. I'm like, I gotta go. I do the same shit.
This was fun.
Yeah.
Good luck, guys. I don't want to see you
Just,
guys
like, leave
win
right away. I'm like, nah.
Yeah, dude. It's like, nah, it's all good. I lost. I don't want to see you guys win. Man, just a couple more things before we wrap up here. Specialty chocolate. It's something that I think is next up.
Yeah.
I don't want to say next up because it's already a thing.
It's a thing.
But I think the same way specialty coffee and specialty cocktails and specialty bourbon and specialty cannabis and all these small batch things have had their heyday.
Mm-hmm.
Chocolate's next.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Chocolate won't be to the same level that the other ones are.
Because of
cost. So it's not a cultural norm yet.
Okay.
So in coffee, how many offices around the world have free coffee in their office?
Yeah, all of them.
All of them. So in order to compete with that, coffee shops have to keep their prices low.
Right.
Let's say no office in the world got free coffee anymore. We would be able to jack up our prices like crazy. So you've got that. You've got alcohol where you have low priced stuff and high priced stuff. Chocolate, no one is buying low price craft chocolate. So you've got bars in like the 99-cent range, the Hershey's, and then you've got specialty bars that are like in the $250 range, and then you've got like
$10.
Yeah, $10 chocolate bars. The people that are buying specialty chocolate are buying the $10 bars. They're not buying the $2 bars.
Yeah.
The people that are buying cheap chocolate are not buying the $2 bars either. They're buying the 99-cent bars.
Right.
So I think specialty chocolate will have its heyday. I think it will come. It's on the up and coming, and it's an amazing industry. But I don't think we'll see it in the same way that we see cannabis, bourbon, cocktails, coffee, you name it.
Yeah.
Because a $10 bar is like 10 minutes of experience. You know what I mean? Unless you take like one nibble and then put it in the freezer or whatever. But yeah, the experience isn't there yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense because it's just like you said, like the cost of making it is like expensive. Yep. So you have to charge the $10 to make it make sense for the company.
Right.
So until you can make a craft chocolate bar for $2.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to
Yeah.
like meet those margins.
And the ones that you're getting at that or at that price are usually lower quality, sometimes inhumane labor practice
Yeah.
cacao.
Where it's like, you shouldn't be supporting those guys.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. And so I guess, yeah, that was, I guess you answered the question right there of it's like the future of craft chocolate, where it's just like, because I think there is some sort of a future, but it's just like it's gonna be limited based off of like the people that are buying it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Consumers hold a pretty big power in that sense.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I guess with the chocolate, the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because you have a direct connection, because that's you were seeing these farmers out in these different countries, and
Yep.
you were able to even infuse some cacao into like your own home brews.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that it's just it's cool that you're so connected in that industry, so you're able to kind of have a really good pulse on like where it's going. Yeah. So the I don't want to wrap this up, but I have to. This is crazy. This is like the first time that I've ever like really not wanted to end an interview, but like I know like we have to.
We can
end
just
this interview.
continue off air.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be like 4 a.m. before we fucking stop talking. So the last thing, I guess, to wrap up here, with Lantern.
Yep.
You guys have done a lot in the last few years. I just want to know, what can people that don't know about Lantern and people that do know about Lantern, what can they expect? What's moving forward? What you guys got going on? And yeah, what's the next moves for Lantern?
I mean, we want to keep pushing the limits of coffee. We have just some coffees on the horizon that are going to like just push the limits. We have our own roastery, hopefully opening January, February. We'll be finally wholesaling out all of our syrups, chai, and oat milk. So you'll hopefully be able to buy those things for your home, or if you work in a cafe, own a cafe, that, along with an online store that will be able to like ship stuff all around the country, maybe the world. I don't know. And that will include like our chocolate bars and stuff like that too. A lot more origin visits. So going down to origin, mostly Honduras. I just made a connection this week down in Guatemala that will hopefully be visiting them. But I'm hoping to do Colombia and then either El Salvador or Ecuador, one or the other.
Yeah.
Are both high on my list of places to go. And just working with people that want to push the limit and do experimental stuff. You get these intrusive thoughts of like, what if I did this? And I want to work with more people that have those thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. I love that. And it's like when you say you want to work with more people like outside of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they're trying to push the limits just the same way that you guys are.
Yeah. I mean, just like I said earlier, like this business can't exist without those people and those producers, and having that collaborative effort of like, let's just do shit together. Like,
Yeah.
let's just do experimental stuff, or let's take care of each other. Something you're passionate about, something I'm passionate about. Let's make it happen and put your name on it, put my name on it, and have it in Grand Rapids, have it in, Comayagua, whatever, wherever it may be. Like, let's just make stuff happen.
I love it, dude. I mean, it's like that classic phrase of like, a rising tide like lifts all boats in a way, where it's like we're gonna ride this wave together, and like let's jump on this at the same time.
Yep.
Amazing, dude. This has been such a good interview, dude. I mean, this hasn't even it's been an interview, but it's just been like conversation.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's cool because like I haven't seen you in over a year, so it's like to be able to like have this conversation on camera is so cool, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you
for doing this, dude.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, dude. Of course. So let's tell the people where they can follow Lantern.
Yep.
So it's at Lantern Coffee Bar.
At Lantern Coffee Bar.
At Lantern Coffee Bar on Instagram.
Yep.
And follow Jon at The Real Jon Coffee. Is there a dot in there?
At the real dot Jon Coffee.
There we go.
At the real dot Jon Coffee.
At the real dot Jon Coffee.
Jon.
Jon. And I'll put the handle right here. Follow this dude. Follow Lantern Coffee Bar.
Yep.
Do you guys have a website for Lantern right now?
Don't go to our website.
Okay, cool. Don't go to the website.
We have a website
until they got a web store going up.
Until don't go to our website. It's pretty old and like the pricing is outdated, the menu's outdated, our hours are wrong. Like, just don't go there.
Don't go to the
or
site.
Just go there. I don't care.
Go to the site. Don't go to the site. Go to the socials. Follow Jon. He posts a lot of his work. Hit him up if you ever have any questions about coffee, tea, brew, cocktails, video, anything. Obviously, this dude is a very passionate individual. You can see this if you've watched this long, 2.5 hours. This has just been so good, dude. I just no words.
Do a part 2.
We should, dude. I would love that so much, man. I really would, and I think that's something we should do. Maybe we'll do it at Lantern again.
Yeah.
But fellow Martians, please go follow Jon, follow Lantern, follow at On Mars Pod, and go to onmarspod.com. Goes to YouTube right now, but we'll have a website up soon.
Heck yeah.
Thank you for watching. I love you guys so much, and we will see you next time on Mars. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this episode of the On Mars Pod and for sticking around to the end, man. I really appreciate you guys. You are the real Martians. Like this video, comment below what your favorite part was, what was most inspiring to you. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications here on future interviews coming out soon. And also follow us on Instagram at On Mars Pod. Love you guys so much. We'll see you next time on Mars.
Literally everything. That was my entire life story.
That's what this is about, dude.
Dude, that like flew by.
It really did.
You were like, it's so late. I was like, holy shit, it's 12:54.
I didn't know. I had no idea.
I told myself, I was like, yeah, we'll be home by like 9:30. Yeah.
Take 3.
All I wanna do. Buttery flaky crust. There's nothing I like better than that buttery flaky crisp.
Baked on a buttery flavored crust.
The woman next to him is so pissed, bro.
Baked on a buttery crispy crust.
Rain, rain, go away. That's what all my haters say. My pockets stay on overload. This rain never evaporates. Dude, classic. Go, 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 go and do your dance. And I'm going to throw this money while you do it with no hands.
Hey.
Hey.